so I go buy a tree stand. He's like, I'll help you hang it up. He's giving me the earthquake check while I'm up here trying to run straps and,
shaking the tree.
I'm hugging onto the tree, never coming down.
It's going to get windy up here, boy. You better hold on.
Yeah.
It's Kentucky. HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, hard to believe, but Deer Grow has been the sponsor that's been there since the beginning of the HUNTR Podcast. Back in 2021, I think that they were the only partner that we had, but it's such a cornerstone brand and set of products for our food plot strategy throughout the year.
No doubt. And it seems like we used to have an off season, but not so much anymore. It's like when the hunting season ends, it really rolls right into food plot season, habitat projects, all of the above. And the Plot Start and Plot Boost have been there since the very beginning. That's a cornerstone for all of our plots. The Plot Start goes on at the beginning, Plot Boost goes on midway through. And since they came out with all of the fertilizers, that gets mixed in with the Plot Boost application as well. And I can't believe the results that we've been getting out of that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like I said, it's all the work now that really produces the results in the fall. So right now, anyone listening to the HUNTR Podcast can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for 15% off any of the products at deergrow.com.
Better food plots, bigger deer.
And we're back.
Hey,
on our podcast, episode 286. As we keep ourselves in line, Nick is there in South Carolina.
Oh, man. What are we thinking?
It's November, if people are listening to this.
Well, they are listening to it, and it is November.
It is November.
Yeah, and yeah, dude, it's November. I guess that's all there is to it. I was telling our guest, Brian, before we started here, it's just like, dude, it's this time of year, man, things flying off. It's like in every direction. Yeah. You get that offer in your DocuSign, by the way.
Oh, I do?
So we can look at that. I read it. Looks good.
Okay.
We'll knock that out. The gist earlier on that call was they shot that other 3-year-old. Now he wants to sell me the property for $500 an acre more than he paid for it. So
no,
that pissed me off.
No. Basically, we raped the land and now we'll sell it to you.
Yep. Tractors, I think, thumbs up on that.
Okay.
Good shape there.
That's good.
Keys are on the thing. So
yep.
Nobody that's listening knows what we're talking about, but that is
they're big deals.
That's the scheme of what's being tied in today.
Well, it's just everything. Well, before we get into it, you guys say your part.
Before we get going here, we appreciate you guys tuning in, whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Those are the 3 main platforms that we drop these episodes on, and we do that every Tuesday and Thursday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. If you've written us on Instagram DM or the website, those are the 2 that we've checked the most frequently. Apologies to the website folks. I know I'm maybe a few weeks behind at this point here, but we do try on that. A lot of you guys
you see you flagging them.
I flag them. So they're in there, they're flagged, they're keyed up to be responded to. A lot of you guys have bought merch from our website in the meantime. We super appreciate that. A lot of that does go to help pay Nick's salary and stuff. And so cool that you guys would buy and wear that stuff. And lastly, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, on any of our partners' websites for a discount in some way, shape, or form. So please use that, and our partners appreciate that too. Other than that,
now here we go. Now here we go. We're recording this early, but it's because timing.
Just a hair.
We had to get everything to drop.
Just a hair.
So today we've got a guest. We got Brian Gold on from Hoyt. And we're going to talk. The reason that we kind of staggered this thing out is we're going to talk about the new bows.
Yeah.
Which is
that just launched yesterday. So it should be Thursday, the 13th. I believe they dropped on the 12th yesterday.
So that's where we're just trying to organize everything. And you and I have had our bows here for a while. Mm-hmm. Actually about to take them on their first walks, or you've been hunting with yours?
I've been hunting with mine.
You have?
Yeah.
Taking mine on my first walk in Illinois tomorrow.
Yep. Have you shot it, right?
Yep. I'm in.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Did you get your silver Sharpie? Did I ever give you that?
The what? No. Did I miss something? What do I get? You holding out on me?
Well, no, I went out of my way to get this for you.
Okay.
And then I forgot to give it to you.
For my peep site?
Yeah, so just use that to mark your peep.
Mark my peep. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm good. I laid the tape on yesterday. Was laying them in there.
What are you?
45.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, 32 over here. So.
Same as my AX2.
I was one off.
Where are you?
Yeah, I was 31 on the 8 or on the 9 rather, and I'm a 32. Whether it's just a circumstantial difference or just how I was feeling on that day too. It also hasn't settled either. That was first couple arrows, so
yeah. Just getting the old stretch out.
Yeah.
Legging it. Yeah. No, shoots great. Yeah.
It really does. Did you? What were your thoughts like initially here before we get Brian in, and we'll compliment him on a lot of these improvements because they were his idea.
Yeah. So I'm shooting an AX-3.
Yeah. I'm shooting the RX-10. Here we go.
Double dig.
Yeah.
And so last year,
I can't even get that high. So.
Yeah, I know. Last year or this year, I guess I shot my elk with the AX-2.
Yeah.
And I really like that bow. This first year I was shooting the aluminum bows. I like the axle to axle length from a tree stand standpoint. I don't know. I mean, I've shot the carbons for a long time. Something about that AX-2 felt like really good from a hunting bow.
Yep.
Really good back wall on these things.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the draw cycle was also extremely smooth, and I think you and I both talked about it. Not that they were loud, but this bow definitely seems quieter than
Well, it definitely is. I mean, literally, they've tested it. I think it was like 16% quieter.
Okay, there you go.
In a dead room.
Yeah. So, overall, I really like it. It's been great. I'm not a great bow shot to begin with, but I lay them in at 60 and 70, no problem.
Yeah.
Anticipating that most of my whitetail shots are inside of 40.
Yeah. Well, and you'll probably get a kick out of knowing it's not like this is a totally new bow. I mean, from year to year, you can only change so many things. And the focus this year, I believe, was on this new XTS tuning system.
Yeah, which is really cool to hear, or we'll be able to hear.
Well, so what's funny is we make these judgments. We're like, hey, quieter, deader in the hand. You know what I mean? All these things that we enjoy about it. And same cam, same limb.
Yeah.
Same riser.
Yeah.
Really, the only change about this bow is this tuning system and how it's got some impacts on the pockets where the limbs sit in there too. So, whether those improvements were intended or just
indirect,
just happy mistakes, kind of a thing.
That'd be cool. People always ask me that. They're like, what's so different about these bows and stuff? And there are things that are changing, every year.
I will say, legitimately, because this is actually the first year we've ever had the bow before they came out.
We have.
It's a significant improvement in my opinion.
Well, and we've talked about it before, even, a while before, I'm not I'm opposed to it. I am uncomfortable changing bows in season. Mainly because you spend all summer or in this case spring and summer getting used to the bow, feeling, and so and I had a successful hunt in September with it, and then it's okay, now I've got this new one to incorporate in, and there's a worrisome there of man, how's it gonna feel? But it's
intimidation just because we don't know our way around a bow press and stuff.
Correct.
It's I'm just so used to, I'm so spoiled since I was 10 years old. My bow tech handed the bow to me across the table.
Here it is.
And it was perfect. It was ready to go.
Yeah.
And so we've never been in a situation where if we change something, if we tweak something that we're responsible for that change. But so now, especially with this tuning system and stuff, I'm feeling more a responsibility, frankly, to know what we're doing with it. And it's well within our reach now. It's not like we're changing, putting in a bow press, twisting the string. That stuff still seems a little over my head. But when it comes down to tighten a bolt, loosen a bolt, I can handle that.
Yeah, I can do that. Allen wrench.
So let's not leave him off here too long. So Brian he can correct me on the title, head engineer, one of the, top engineers at Hoyt, has been there for 12, 13 years, has been a big part of all of the bow designs along the way. And certainly this most recent one is no different. He's a Kentucky native.
Oh,
which you guys can connect on. He'll be back here shortly, I think, to hunt in November. So he's a big bow hunter too.
Nice.
And other than that, let's get him on.
All right, Brian, we got you, man.
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Perfect, dude. Well, since Jared kind of
I took a little longer on that. Sorry about that.
You laid it out. So where at in Kentucky? Kentucky native.
Western end.
Okay.
Closest big city would be Paducah.
Paducah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Good deer hunting out there.
It is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's part of what got me into it.
Yeah, I've spent a few hunts in Hopkins County. Yeah, that kind of area.
A little northeast of me.
Yep.
Not too far though.
I hunted really close to Paducah. A couple on the Illinois side. That was my first trip to Illinois ever. I was 16.
That was Cattlegate era.
Cattlegate era.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Cattlegate, I guess you would call it.
Jared left the gate open on the cow farm. Not a good start.
That's a bad deal.
I had to drive to Kentucky. I drove to Paducah to get a new phone because I dropped my phone out of the tree stand that same hunt. So I know the area.
There you go. Okay, so born and raised in Kentucky. So I assume, did you grow up a bow hunter then?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I actually got into it. Got my first introduction to hunting really was through my granddad.
Mm-hmm.
I was, 13, 14. They hunted every year, but rifle hunted. So
Okay.
nobody in the family bow hunted really at all. And I got the invite one fall when some sports stuff started to fall off. It was like, hey, you need to come to deer camp. I'm like, okay, my cousin's like, hey, you really need to come down, like at least spend the weekend, if not a few days. It's a lot of fun. And so finally got a chance to go down and join kind of the family deer camp. And it was an interesting introduction. It was rifle season in Kentucky, so a lot more people there than I was planning on. I was kind of thinking like small family gig, my cousin, my uncle, my granddad, this would be fun. They were in one camper. There was a whole house full of extended family that I wasn't as familiar with. There was another camper full of some family friends. And I remember him being like very much in the mindset of like, when we get to the stand, when you see a deer, you need to get on it. You need to get on it. He just kept telling me, he's like, you got to get it.
Got to get on it.
Don't use your binos. And so anyway, yeah, my first hunt was, I think I was looking through the scope at a buck that entered the field. He just kept saying, hey, you need to shoot. You just need to shoot. You just need to shoot. My cousin shoots that buck that morning. And that was how I got introduced to deer hunting. So I went through that season. And I think they killed dozens of deer, right? In Kentucky, you get two tags, you can go buy two more and two more and two more. So a lot of meat hunting families there hunting that farm, really high deer density in that area. And I asked for a bow for Christmas once I figured out that I could extend my hunt from this 2-week war zone to a September to January, do it at my own pace thing. And that's really where it all started.
That's usually a good way to do it, because you go into that kind of a experience and you're like, boy, that was intense. Like how can I maybe slow this pace down a little bit and like, take it in a little bit more. But I get it, man. I grew up in a Pennsylvania family that was very much the same way. It was like, if it had a 3-inch spike, you did not pass it. You killed that thing. And, it was deer drives at 9 a.m. on the opening day of gun season. And so that's just kind of how it was.
Yeah, it was a blast. I mean, I had a lot of fun. I went back, multiple weekends. I ended up not being able to fill a tag with what I would describe as chaos that was ensuing, but it was fun. I mean, there was a system to it everybody else was aware of, and I just wasn't trained into it at that point.
Huh. Was that attractive to you? I mean, how old were you at the time, Brian? And was that?
I would have been 14, I think.
Yeah. And so did you have fun with that? You're like, oh, this is a good time. Like
I had a lot of fun just from the family side.
Yeah,
right?
The camaraderie.
Yep. My granddad did it. He had my uncle and my cousin there. They always talked about it. It was this thing that happened for a couple weeks every year. And I had a blast doing that. My personal experience was that I wasn't cut out for that whole process. But I learned a lot, I mean, when you finish the morning and you throw 6 deer in the truck and you take them back to the barn, gutting, skinning, processing, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was like a well-tuned machine that was processing deer at a fairly high rate. And, it was awesome.
Kentucky killing machine.
That's funny, man. It is, a lot of people, it's just because of the time too, right? Those times versus where we're at now. But a lot of people did kind of get birthed into the deer camp mindset, like especially if you came from a hunting family, like that's just what it was. And even though like the goals we have and why we do it has evolved, like I look back at some of those times and they were the best times I ever had, hunting, even though it was, gun hunting, and I'm such a bow hunting freak now, just the camaraderie and the night before excitement, the back at camp, like you said, Brian, just deer hanging and sitting around the fire and telling stories, like, those times you don't have as frequent anymore. And man, they were awesome.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Brian, were there guys in that camp or in your family that were bow hunting too, or like what?
Yeah,
they were.
Yeah. In that camp. Yeah. There were some guys that were a little more serious, and it was interesting as I learned more about what was going on, the dynamics of the family and friends. It was kind of like, there's an area where we're going to go, it's high deer density and we're going to go harvest those on this property. And there were a couple guys that bow hunted and were a little more serious, and they hunted some other areas. So it was, kind of not stepping on toes, so to speak, but then also, a big chunk of area where the family could just kind of go do whatever that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Cool.
And those guys kind of held your, I mean, did you ask them for like, hey, where can I bow hunt? Can I be a part of that also? Or?
I actually did that kind of on my own. So I got a bow that Christmas, and then we had some family property there. My grandparents, my dad, it's all kind of tied together. A neighbor that was, a longtime family friend. And at that time, that was 25 years ago or something like that. It was like, if you called as a bow hunter, it's like, oh yeah, you can go. Yeah. We've got guys who rifle hunt, there's permission, whatever else. Oh, you're going to bow hunt? Oh, in December? Yeah, do whatever you want.
Go
you
for it
yourself. So yeah, that was a pretty awesome realization for me, not knowing what I might have. I knew I had some family property, but it was pretty easy to get permission at that time for sure.
Right on. What was the first bow?
A Browning Mirage 33.
Mm-hmm. I remember the old Browning bows.
I know that one.
You remember the old Browning bows?
I don't think I do.
Single cam, about 3 inches too long in draw length.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mine was an old Indian Timberland stalker. I used that thing.
You're that old. You shot an Indian.
Jeez. Yeah.
My first doesn't even sound that. It was like a PSE, whatever.
Yeah, man. Those are the days. Well, so so Brian, you get one for Christmas.
An Indian.
An Indian. Are you trying to go out like right away, or are you like, all right, you're going out?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I think I opened it Christmas Day and I started sighting it in, losing arrows. And we went back to school, I'm like 8th grade, something like that. I went back to school right after the first year. And I remember hunting 2 afternoons after school and then shooting my first doe.
That's freaking awesome.
I was hooked from there.
That was it, man. Just right needle into the vein.
Yeah, it was interesting. I hadn't hunted. I can't say that I was the most friendly with heights. I could stand it, but it wasn't my favorite. My dad didn't really deer hunt, and so I go by a tree stand. He's like, "I'll help you hang it up." He's giving me the earthquake check while I'm up here trying to run straps and.
Shaking the chair.
I'm hugging onto the tree, never coming down.
It's gonna get windy up here, boy. You better hold on. Yeah, it's Kentucky.
But that was my start in bow hunting.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, sometimes that's what it takes. Like I think I missed my first at least 1 or 2 deer before I killed one. I was 13, I think, when I started, and I mean, I just remember it like vividly. I remember like the frustrations of missing the deer, but then I also remember like when I killed one, I'm like, whoa, like I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah.
Well, Brian,
awesome.
What are the routes in, hopefully I kind of introed you correctly in terms of like you oversee all of the engineers at Hoyt, right?
Yeah. Yep. So director of product development.
There you go.
So I've been at Hoyt for 14 years. I actually started here straight out of school.
Wow.
Before I was out here in Utah, living in Kentucky, I worked for an archery shop for about 6 years, late high school through college. And so I got, kind of buried in the technical side of it. I really enjoyed it. Kind of started as a shop rep even before I worked there, fletching arrows, and just kind of the guys that were there were just tired of me bringing in arrows every week, because I was shooting them through stuff and shooting at birds and whatever, right? I'm losing them. I need constant repairs. So I just kind of started to do a little bit of that on my own. Worked in a shop for 6 years, had some great mentors to learn from. Actually got a little bit of transition into target archery, shot some of the ASAs. That area was pretty central. So you got Metropolis ASA, 40 minutes away. You got London, Kentucky, 3 or 4 hours. So I shot a few of those, ran some leagues. That's kind of what got me into the target side of it. And that was, I think, what solidified my passion for archery, in the vein that it was kind of like it was everything. So as I finished school, I was looking for an archery job, and I was an intern at a chemical plant. That's kind of the industry that's available there back home, and was kind of expected to do that and this bow hunt on the side. But I had an in at the industry. I was in the shop. I was going to the ATA show every year. And so I was bumping these guys, right? My boss, Zach, now he's the president, but I met him and Gideon, our director of R&D, and just, every year I was kind of like, hey, what are you guys looking for an engineer? How often do you hire? It's like, it's a small team. We don't really have spots very often. And right before I graduated in March, they had an engineer that went back home to take a job, helping a family business, I think. And so I talked to him at ATA that year. They kind of talked, they must have known, maybe there was some writing on the wall stuff there that he might go. And interviewed in March, moved out in May right after graduation. Actually, if I remember the sequence of events, I think I accepted the job, then proposed to my then girlfriend, then told her I was moving to Utah, and then came back in September, and we got married, and then I dragged her out here too.
That's a good test, man. I mean, that's the way to do it. Lay it all out there and see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
That's very
worked
cool.
out.
And so, Brian, you were going to ATA as basically as the archery shop, as as a retailer kind of?
Yep. Yeah. So Kentucky Lake Outdoors was the shop. We had a couple different locations we moved to. And I mostly worked in archery, but we were full line. So we did, clothes, tree stands, firearms, optics, fishing. That area is big in fishing for Kentucky and Barkley Lakes as well.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
I was going every year. I mean, it's different today, but the trade show that I was going to was a blast. There was a lot of just the social aspects of it, but then also the buying part of it. There were show incentives. There was reason to see new product. A lot of product launches happened there. So I always enjoyed my trips there.
There's a lot of deals. There was a lot of money rode up at those old shows. I mean, that was there. You were sitting down and people were placing significant orders with a lot of different brands at those shows. And yeah, I mean, the social aspect of it was, I can't remember exactly when my first ATA show was, probably 2010 or 11, something like that. And like, I remember walking in as a bow hunter, walking into that room and just being like, whoa, like this is it. This is the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Like a kid on Christmas.
I know, man. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Brian, how tailored was your degree or your education to the job that you took at Hoyt? Is that something that you started kind of angling towards, or I know it sounded like
as best I could. I talked to those guys at the ATA show, and I asked them what areas of expertise would be beneficial. We're running finite element analysis. If you've got any design in SolidWorks or Pro-E, modeling program. If you can get some experience in sound or vibration testing. So, we had an elective as you get further into the program. I picked vibrations as an elective. That for me was interesting, but also was just a, kind of bottom of the resume thing to pad my interest in archery and why I was doing it. But I just a mechanical engineering degree. So nothing specialized in archery other than my passion for it.
Gotcha. And it's just a bachelor degree? Did you do any further schooling or? Yeah.
Yep. Nope. No, just bachelor's in mechanical engineering.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but in that mechanical engineering stuff, as you're learning the fundamentals and basis, in your brain as a bow hunter and a bow guy, you can see the applications to it, just like the vibrations and stuff being applied to those different techniques.
Yeah, absolutely. And, at the end of the day, when you come out of an engineering program, you're getting exposed to the mechanics side, the static side, thermodynamics, fluid dynamics. I mean, things that I'll never use again, likely in this, in the job that I have today,
Right.
But you're a glorified problem solver. That's essentially what the program's designed to do. When you make you aware of mechanical systems and give you the aptitude to solve problems, and whatever you're interested in is what you're going to start to apply to it. Just as you mentioned.
What college did you go to?
University of Kentucky.
Oh, UK. Big Blue.
Yeah. So Brian, what fundamentals, you've been there for 14 years now, what are some of the key principles of engineering a bow?
For us, I mean, the structural analysis that we use on risers, on cams, that sort of thing, that's probably the most important. When it comes to for Hoyt, we have some pretty high standards when it comes to durability. And so our testing can become really labor intensive when you get into the requirements of dry fire. You get into 250,000 cycles when you want to run a test to 1 million to kind of see if you've got your stress strain curves mapped out correctly. Beam theory, when you're designing limbs and you're really trying to manage stress in those limbs, you've got a composite with a lot of discontinuous fibers. You want to make sure that those limbs are durable for the life of the bow. You want to make sure there's no lifting. If a failure does happen, right? You dropped your bow out of a tree stand, whatever else. We want to make sure that we're over designed. I mean, that's really, what Hoyt as a brand has built a reputation for over the years. And those are key elements that we take into account in all of our product development.
I know you kind of mentioned some of it there, but would you mind going into a little bit more detail as far as the testing? I heard the dry firing thing. I think we've seen.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Like it's getting dry fired a certain number of times? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you know, marketing's done a pretty good job of kind of trying to share some of the background into that, but all of our risers have a 1500 dry fire requirement. We have some minor shifts in requirements. You know, a set of limbs may require 1,000, but we generally run them all the way to 1,500. Every component gets to 1,500, and then we're looking for, you know, any yielding cracks, anything to show up in that window. It's one of the harshest tests to perform. It's very difficult to perform. It's nuanced in how we, you know, build our strings and cables, the components that we replace and the intervals that we replace them, because bearings don't like getting dry fired. They don't like shock loading. Bearings like to run continuously, and we're putting them through a significant shock load. So we'll replace some bearings. We'll replace some strings and cables, right? You're occasionally going to have to deal with a derail. And that's going to cut some fibers, so you're going to need to replace that. But I think one of the reasons that we continue to be one of the brands that stands on that is it does represent a very high level of stress on our components. And when you go use it in the field, you can be 100% confident in, you know, the design and the function of that product, any application you're going to have. We get tons and tons of, you know, letters and emails and feedback about, I dropped my bow out of a tree stand. I went to go get it, knew my hunt was over, took it to a shop. They said they couldn't find anything on it. Now I'm not advocating for you to drop it out of a tree stand and not check it out. But, you know, to your point about the testing, right? We run this test every year. We kind of know where we perform. We know where our competitors perform. And I think more recently, Podium Archer, Josh Jones.
Yeah.
He was gracious enough to do his own version of some dry fire videos. So he dry fired a couple of our competitors. Their cams yielded in 1 to 2 dry fires. He dry fired ours in the same test. He doesn't know what results to expect. And he gets to 10 and he just stops his test and he can't tell that anything has happened to the bow. And well, I have to say again, I can't advocate for you to go dry fire your bow, but I think it's a good representation of the standards that we have through our testing procedures and, you know, what we expect out of the product, because we know misuse is going to happen. We know you're going to fall on the mountain. We know things are going to happen in the tree stand. And the last thing we want is for a hunt to be cut short due to our design.
And is that to say that Josh dry fired other bows and what happened? They like exploded or
cams?
No. Yeah. I mean, I think in both those cases, they're pretty interesting videos. He only ran 3 of them, and you know, it shows what we can see in high speed, right? It shows the string hitting and kind of rebounding, and then sometimes it hops off the track. So the other 2 examples both yielded the cams in 1 to 2 dry fires, or derailed and yielded the cams, and ours just took 10. And
then he stopped.
Then he stopped. Yep. And is that to say that every one of the Hoyt bows gets dry fired 1,500 times, or you guys pull out test samples?
Yeah, no. Yeah. You're not getting a bow that's been dry fired 115
okay.
times. But it is an engineering requirement. So every bow model that we launch has been through that requirement.
Right.
And
I see.
You know, especially, you know, as we've started to creep into, you know, heavier weights and more performance, that's been a transition since I've been here in the last few years, where you know, you go from bows shooting 310, 320, 330 even. That wasn't very long ago. That was in the range of when I started here. When you get to everything shooting 340 and then some stuff shooting 350 or wanting to try to stretch towards 360, then you try to go build a product line that can fit everybody. And now you get to 33 or 34 inches of draw. It becomes a very demanding test to be able to pass that with the results that we require. So we've had to adapt our design strategies and procedures for various components in order to continue to kind of stick with that standard, that stake in the ground, so to speak.
Not asking for any secret sauce here, but what is it about the Hoyts that makes them able to be dry fired so many times and other models can't?
You know, I to be honest, I think it's just the fact that we require it. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a little secret sauce here and there in any manufacturer. You know, you're going to figure things out along the way. I think we just have always had testing requirements that we had to pass, and so when we stepped through that development cycle, we had to problem solve 4 or 5 more iterations to get it to that place. So we've got a little better understanding of material selection and structural design at the individual component level, because I'm not just putting it in a shooting machine for 20,000 shots. I'm I've got to also pass a misuse case.
Right.
That, that's above and beyond what we hope most of our users have. But when you do make a mistake, we don't want your hunt to be ruined either.
So Brian, that's what I was going to say, is like basically that stress test of kind of a quote unquote misuse case of 1500 on it to test those main components, risers, limbs, cams. Is there a factor then of like saying, okay, if we can pass this, our components can pass that at 1500 dry fires, like normal appropriate shooting, then it's X, like it can withstand, unlimited shots, or what's that look like?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that we don't quantify that in every model.
Right.
But I can tell you that we can take competitors that I know will tout shooting machines. We put 40,000 shots in them.
Okay.
We can put them through our test and they'll fail a component within the first 5 to 15.
Okay.
At the same level.
I gotcha.
And so, I think that's probably my most direct comparison.
No, I think that's exactly what you want to hear though.
We've got shot machines and we run them. They are a little nuanced in terms of how you want to execute that test. If you think about it, shooting arrows, that's a lot of arrows. It's a lot of holes in the target. It's a lot of arrows pulled.
Right.
It's just a very manual process.
Yeah.
Our neighbors over at Easton, they do a lot of that. So we coordinate projects with them.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some of the best testing feedback we get is actually the fact that we get them bows. And so when they're running actual arrow testing, we'll get one back that's been back there, 3 years and just, beat to death with repetitive shot testing, and we can compare that to the same results we finished with the dry fire.
Very cool.
That's good info.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
Should be no surprise to anyone listening to this that back with Hoyt another season. I'm actually going to be shooting the AX-2 aluminum this year.
You traitor.
But you're still going RX-9.
Yeah, blacked out as always.
Blacked out. Big surprise for everyone.
80 pounds. Big surprise. Yeah.
But seriously, man, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Every year it seems like we get a new Hoyt bow in our hands, and they're always a step above the last and just a step above everybody else.
Yeah, they're so consistent, man. Just their processes get better, every year. And we've really been excited about, as we've grown with Hoyt, we've brought some others in with us. And we just feel like the Hoyt family is growing, like the community, and we're really excited about the people that are involved, excited to be a part of that company. And it's really awesome.
So for anyone that's excited about Hoyt like Jared and I are, you can use the code HUNTR, HUNTR, on Hoyt.com.
Get serious, get Hoyt.
Whether you're an archer or a bow hunter, right? Like for most people, you're buying a bow and it's a big investment, and like you plan on having that for several years. And if, depending on how much you're shooting, like the thought process is always there. Obviously there's basic bow maintenance and strings and cables and stuff, but from a component side, it's like, the components are as good as they are when you get them, right? Like that,
Yep.
Unless you're replacing them, like they are what you have.
Yep. Yeah. And I think for us, I mean, the system itself, I mean, the bow doesn't function if the weakest component fails.
Right.
And that's, our standards around, axles and bearings and even strings and cables. If you take our strings and cables apart, you'll find that we use our own proprietary string weight. We do that because if you dry fire, a lot of other bows, they've got knock sets and they may or may not stay on. Ours will 100% of the time because it is put on as a sleeve and then crimped on post process. So it's to that level that we really go through the component group to provide the best quality and the most durability that we can in all of our products.
Interesting. So is there, like, if somebody uses a third party string on there, is there any like things that they should be looking for if they're switching out the Hoyt string for one of these third parties, whether, I don't know, America's Best or whoever?
Yeah. I mean, our stance is that, the strings and cables are one of the most important components on there.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you actually go look in our manual, we'll state that, there's some level of risk that you're assuming in replacing those strings and cables. Marketing's done a pretty good job of building a white paper. I think maybe you guys have had a chance to look at some of that stuff, but we started producing that last year. That gives some really some intimate details in terms of whether it's performance, velocities in various draw lengths of the bow, whether it's how we construct our strings and cables and what makes us different. That's available in those white papers.
Gotcha.
We started that with the launch of a target bow. It was really well received, especially from that technical crowd on the target side. And so we just continued it into hunting. It really gives an insight into why we do what we do, who we are as a brand, and how the products are expected to perform. And in that, we actually break down what materials we use, how many strands we use, what general diameters we expect you to build to. We're one of the only companies that offer kind of technical information at the level that we do. So if you go to our website in the support section, you can find our tune charts, and in those tune charts actually have string drawings where we provide the information. So, if you want to use our stuff, I think we build a fantastic set of strings and cables. But if you want to go, if you're a tinker and you want to go build your own stuff, or you want to go buy something, then that information's out there as well.
Awesome.
Well, Brian, we came out. When was that? August sometime, I think we came out and Evan gave us the full tour, which we found out after, the 2-hour version that it could have been done in maybe a half an hour. But
yeah, the Eldridge version is like 35 minutes. The Evan version is 2 hours.
Very thorough. And it was like, it was poor planning on our end. I think our plane took off at like 3:30 in the morning. Like, it was a crazy early flight. And we were running on fumes by the time we get there. And then Evan's like, let's go tour. Here we go. But it was like, honestly, we were blown away. Like just like the level of detail that every single, what would you call it? Like
component.
Every component, but every section throughout the entire factory. It's like, it was so well, overseen, I mean, it was like to every detail. It's like before it ever leaves here, it's tested before it moves to this.
Meticulous.
It was meticulous. And dude, the string tying was like, honestly, really impressed me. Like I've never seen a string tied like that. And then we came to that section there and I was like, I mean, obviously I can tell what they're doing here, but I sit and watched her for like, like 5-10 minutes. And
it was
just
captivating.
It was captivating. I was like, dude, that is an art, how they're able to tie that all together. And I was like, you'd want to make sure that that's done right, if it's going to go on your bow.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a unique manufacturing facility because it's got, as you guys toured it, right? We've got a machine shop that's all kind of self-enclosed over there. It's got a quality room with a CMM, an optical comparator, roamer arm, anything that we need to go measure and validate parts. But then you move into the other floor, and now we're dealing in textiles and building strings and cables. Now we're dealing in composites with carbon risers and 5-axis routers to hit some of the features that we need to hit. We're dealing with graphite, fiberglass and limbs and laminates. And I mean, it's each individual manufacturing area could be its own company in a lot of regards in terms of what it takes to produce a bow at the end of the line.
Yeah. Well, and even to see some of the like raw components, like the raw aluminum and stuff for the cams and for some of the risers and stuff, it's like you're sitting there holding this piece and then looking at how it like, phase by phase is machined down to a final product. And it's like, it's hard to fathom when you get that final product that's the starting point on some of that.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty cool that you guys are all in the same building too, so it's like you could literally sit in your office there and like, be working on your CAD drawings or whatever, and then go out and be able to see it being made, all the way to shipping and then, from marketing. So it's cool that you guys are all in the same building there too.
Yeah. It's live and everything's under one roof. It's definitely a benefit when it comes to impacting what's going on with the product live. We can run production. We can do a startup on a pilot run, something like that, and I can walk straight down in 30 seconds and observe the first bows going through the line. And I think that's really impactful, whether it's in training systems with new employees or whether it's just in startup procedures. It makes it helps build a better finished product.
Yeah. Well, dude, what does that look like, I guess, for you personally or for all of the engineers? It's like, what is, whether you say a day in the life, or it's like, when do you guys start thinking about like, okay, next year's bow, let's buckle down and here's the plan, here's the goal, let's execute, go. What does that look like?
It's different every year. When I started here, I've ran projects that in 3 months I turned over ready to go. And we might, be releasing it a month later. That's not the standard. We've got this tuning system, for example. We've been in direct development and testing of tuning systems for probably nearly 5 years. Been evaluating different ways to go tune bows, for longer than that. But when it came to our commitment to, we're ready to introduce into this feature segment and we want to build the best system that we can. I think we've been 3 product cycles where we were like, we're going to launch a tuning system this year. and it just didn't meet the demands, whether it was in final testing, whether it was in functionality, whether it was in, just ease of use and the ability for us to, train a customer, train a dealer to be able to use it and how intuitive it is. That was a 4 to 5 year project. But we're in a space now where, when this year's launching, we already are working on the next year. And a lot of that's just in balancing resource. I'd love to have, a complete R&D team and a complete product development team, but, it's difficult to justify that amount of resource, with the projects that we're running. So, we're generally 1 to 2 years out. If we're launching this November, there's already multiple bows components already built for next year, and there's a handful of projects looking at the following as well.
Are the launches somewhat anticlimactic for you then? Because you're like, by the time it comes out, you're like, yeah, but you should see this. Like,
it depends on the product. There are years where when we finish one, I'm a little bit nervous about what the next one's going to look like. Right?
Yeah.
It's just, you start that project and you get it dialed and you achieve what you want to, and there's a ton of satisfaction that comes from that. Obviously, whether anybody realizes it or not, the department's full of real people. So if you're going to be in product development, especially in consumer products, you got to have some thick skin, because what you're proud of is what everyone else is going to ridicule. And so when launch time is awesome, right? We kind of joke, we'll focus on comments on Instagram, and we'll let the grumpy people on Facebook have their own opinions over there. But it's always fun. I mean, our guys come in on launch day, marketing comes back. Sometimes they'll come blasting through the door with some music, clapping and playing videos and whatever else. But we're looking forward to it. When other companies launch, we're the guys who are logged in watching videos, seeing what's out there.
Yep. Interesting.
Sorry, did you have one?
Yeah, I did.
Keep going? Sorry,
well, because I was going to say, sometimes we're the king of dumb questions here, but we were just kind of talking there pre-podcast. Jared's shooting the RX-10 this year or this time, and I'm shooting the AX-3.
Feels a little naughty to say that on a podcast.
Yeah, it does. We're allowed to say it now. I guess just as like an average customer, like talking about it, like what's the thought process behind offering, a high-end aluminum and a high-end carbon, every year?
I think for us, there's a performance benefit.
Okay.
Carbon's lighter. It is a better product to be used in cold weather. It's warm to the touch. I think we've had that product line long enough that now there's an established group of people who recognize those differences, and then you go shoot aluminum bows and they just feel different, right? The vibration profiles are different. Carbon's a little bit stiffer. It dampens better. So, for us, we're looking for every performance advantage possible. The carbon bow on any given year is 0.3 to half a pound lighter. It also gives us some opportunity to go after, whether it's riser stiffness, whether it's vibration profile. We can actually tweak that a little bit more when it comes to layup and structural design, and the way that we design that part, the way that we manufacture it with tooling. And, I think it gives us the ability to separate that product from everything else that's in the market. We've had a few competitors come in, and want to step into that category, but it's not an easy category to do well. And, I think, from my perspective, I think we still build the best all around hunting bow on the market. And now we give you 2 price point options with slightly different performance characteristics.
Cool.
Do you feel, Brian, like from an engineering standpoint, that the carbon is like truly a superior material, or are there advantages of the aluminum also?
I would say they're getting closer all the time. The carbon benefit comes in waves, right? That development takes a little bit longer. Just the lead times to get the tooling to iterate through layups, that part of the business. If I'm going to design a new aluminum riser, we're good at that. All of that's controlled. So I've got a little bit of lead time waiting on maybe a new forge for a raw material. But when we're looking at carbon, we're looking to really push the limits. And so, you're going to see a little slower frequency in the turnover of the look of those bows and in the geometry of those bows. RX-7 launch, that was our first all carbon riser. We were to that point, we were using aluminum heads to manipulate geometry. So we move into the RX-7 series and into the RX-8. When we moved to 9, that was kind of the first transition for that series, where we built 2 new geometries. We shortened the pocket span, And then for the Ultra, we actually shortened the axle and moved the brace height forward.
Mm.
So I hear comments, like, yeah, it's basically the same bow. I mean, for us, it was like a full product cycle.
Right. Yeah.
There's definitely risk in the space of, when you get it right, and you've got, and our customers who have RX-7s and RX-8s, they know, that those bows shoot awesome, right? They're not necessarily looking for more from those products. So when we get that vibration profile right, when we get sound down, when we get riser stiffness and string alignment in a good spot, we got tuning dialed in, then just revamping that, at a cosmetic look can be detrimental to those performance characteristics. It can be net positive from a sales interest standpoint to say, hey, here's a brand new looking riser. It can be net negative if we don't have enough time to develop that into the next better version of itself. And, for us, I think that's where we're running kind of two opposing cycles while we're introducing those together.
Mm-hmm.
Carbon's getting a little, a couple years in, 2 to 3 years in, and getting to where we need it to be. Where aluminum, we're able to adapt to that quickly. We can take the same raw material. We can go do some structural changes like we did in AX-3.
Mm-hmm.
We can stiffen up that handle. We can actually change vibration profile, and we can make improvements, within a shorter time span.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Dude, how much of that direction is like self-imposed? You're like, I really want this bow to do this or that, versus like consumer feedback or, marketing even?
It's a balance of both. I mean, we've got a great engineering team, and all of these guys bow hunt. Most all of them shoot target archery at a fairly high level. So we've got really good internal feedback coming from that group, right? You roll off one project, you kind of already have some vision for what the next one might look like.
Mm-hmm.
We've got guys like Evan, our president, Zach, Jeremy and marketing, Tom and sales, like our all of our leadership are big time hunters. And then we've got at the next level, Steve Anderson, who's a world champion archer, running our target marketing initiatives. So we take a ton of feedback from that group, right? All the way down to the employee level, because we got a lot of passionate guys within the assembly teams and manufacturing areas. But we've also got a great rep group. We got boots on the ground at every dealer in the country, and they give reports every month, and we're looking at what we're doing right, what we can improve on. And I get those from Tom, every month, every couple months, and we're baking that into a bigger feedback loop for what our product is. And it's a big part of it every year.
Yeah. I'll give you some feedback right here on the podcast. I mean, I think so. And I told you that Jeremy and I are not that comfortable, like around a bow press, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
we've just been spoiled, It's like, I've had a great bow shop who's like, I've just trusted, and Jeremy uses the same guys now. We trust these guys for, I don't know, it's been 20 years now. I've been going here. But every year it seems like a little bit less and less intimidating as I see like the tuning systems and all those things get a little bit more consumer friendly. I could do that. I could do that. And then, but most recently here, and we can get into maybe some of the nuts and bolts with this XTS tuning system. That for me, I think has really given me the push to where I'm like, and I should have done it just the other day. I need to buy a paper tuner.
Yeah, paper tuner.
So I can shoot through, because I'm like, and you guys were cool enough to set up our bows at the factory. Evan did, and set them up basically to our specs. So I'm like, I can't really mess it up from there. It's not like it's not like I'm bow pressing and putting spacers in or putting twists and strings and stuff. I can make a twist left and a twist right. I'm smart enough to understand how that system can work. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, no, it's just to kind of get into it a little bit, that's one of the big benefits of this new system. We sent out a number of these early on with no pictures, no graphics, no explanation, nothing. Just it's a tuning system. It adjusts within the pocket. Give me your feedback. And, I had a few different guys come back to me, and it was like, that was super intuitive. I loosened a screw. I moved the limb. I moved it the wrong direction. I figured that out when I shot it through paper. So I just moved it back the other direction and got the correction that I needed. And I think that was one of the really important aspects of that project, was to make this as simple and as intuitive as possible, while also still supporting our position on durability and mandating it can, handle our test requirements. So, if you look back just a number of years ago, right before, the Venom series of bows, the Axius, RX-1, that kind of series, that was kind of the end of cam and a half. And, I've heard this from dealers for a number of years. This is something that internally we recognized is that, I wish you had yokes back. Wish you had cable yokes back. That's something that I know at the dealer level, at a little more technical level, people would understand, because having yokes on the upper axle gave you the ability to tune the bow at a very micro level. You could put it in a press, you could put a half a twist in one side of the yoke, you could change cam timing and tune all at the same time. You could put twists in one side and pull them out of the other. You could leave cam timing the same, and now you've just changed cam pitch, which changed your tune. So you didn't have to move your rest. Huge benefit to that was the fact that now that I'm adjusting, I'm making some yoke adjustments to tune, say, a broadhead in or a bear shaft, whatever my preferred tuning method is. I don't need to change my sight. I don't have to re-sight in. So I can go yoke tune this bow. I can go change cam pitch. But what I didn't do is actually move my launch plane. I didn't have to go move spacers. As soon as I move spacers, it's the same as moving a rest. I've got 2 points in alignment, and if I move one, the other one, its relative position is now different. If I move the back one, now its relationship to the rest is different. So it requires you to re-sight in. And that was a critical thing that we were reviewing in cam systems, whether it's a threaded axle system that's out there, or a pocket that maybe, or a system that tilts the whole pocket. It's moving launch plane. It's physically moving string position. So when we were looking at the benefits of a yoke, we really were looking at how do we implement those benefits into a tuning system. And we've been through multiple cam configurations over the last few years. We moved into pockets in the last couple, and we've been through 4 or 5 iterations of this system. And that ultimately we landed with the XTS system that we've got today. The exact tuning system, that's what XTS stands for, and it's got a ton of benefits and features that kind of reflect what happened in yokes. Essentially, the way that I've been describing it is it's yoke tuning in the pocket, but now it's the same in the top and bottom. It's everywhere. So you've got basically 2 ramped pads that are inside that system, and it's got a drive screw. You're going to use a 3/32 wrench. You're going to crack the lock screw. You're going to tighten or loosen that drive, and that's going to basically move that limb up or down. It's going to add some deflection. The cool thing about that is that it didn't move the back of the pocket, so the limbs are still clamped in place. It didn't move the axle assembly at all, so that's all still clamped in place. But it changed the pitch to affect tune. So when you're on the line, like you were talking about doing some tuning for yourself. One of the cool things you can do is, let's say you go out, you're at 60 yards. You're somebody who's, shooting, you've got a preferred head, maybe even shoot fixed heads. And, you go out, your through paper tune is just money, right? You've got it. You shot it at 6 feet. It looks good. You go out, you shoot a broadhead, and it impacts left, maybe 6 inches. It's like, it's a little confusing to a lot of people. It's like, I just saw that it was perfect through paper.
Right.
So now it's like, do I go back to paper? Do I need to move a spacer? Do I need to move my rest? Let me pull up a video and watch this. Let me see what I can do. The cool thing about the XTS system is that in that moment right there, you can go to our tuning diagram. It'll tell you which bolt to turn, and live, you can take your broadhead from left of your field point group and move it right back into the center of your field point group. Your field point group never moves. You don't have to do anything else. You can just turn this bolt, shoot another one, turn the bolt, shoot another one, maybe loosen the opposing side bolt. Best practice for the system is to tighten one side, loosen the other. That's going to keep your poundage and everything exactly the same. But that's been a really big benefit, because you get out, and you're sighting in, you think everything's dialed, or, to your point, talked earlier, you take your bow to somebody and you get it tuned up and ready to rock. If you've got a bow that's got 5 arrows through it, it's tuned, but at 20 arrows, it's a little bit different, because your string broke in. It found the bottom of the string groove. Now it's starting to loosen up string weights and peep. Those dynamics are changing a little bit where your knock releases. And when you go back to shoot that broadhead, if you've got a change in point of impact, you've got something that you have to solve, or you got to go back to the shop to do it. And in this case, whether the shop does it for you or whether you do it, you've got a micro level of tuning available to you without the need for a bow press.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So Brian, what would you do, like, in our situation, you guys were the shop effectively. You set it up, you got it tuned, like, Evan tuned it to the best of his ability. But other guys in the future, will buy these bows from shops, and then they'll get them tuned and stuff. And then, so what would you do, like, with where we're at with it right now, where I'm like, I think it's pretty close, but like my string's going to settle over the next couple,
You've put what? How many 100 arrows through it?
Yeah, a couple hundred probably. And so is shooting through the paper probably the next thing that I should do personally, like on my end of things?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say paper's always my recommended primary choice of tuning because it's going to give you a visual to work off of.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes, and I will preface with this, whether you're paper tuning, whether you are shooting a bear shaft at a target at distance, whether you're shooting a broadhead, they're telling you the exact same thing.
Okay.
If I've got a tail right tear through paper, I'm going to get a left impact with a broadhead, and I'm going to get a left impact with a bear shaft. So for in your case, right, if this thing's pretty well dialed and it's shooting pretty good, and you want to just give it a check and make sure you're not leaving anything on the table, I'd start with paper. 9 to 12 feet. I think that's your best opportunity. My recommendation that I add to paper tuning is give yourself something to aim at. Take the paper. I think there's a couple companies now that like make a paper tuning paper that's got like dots printed on it.
Okay.
Color you something on. There's kind of an anomaly in shooting archery that I think everybody just assumes they're super consistent and they shoot the same shot. But I've worked with enough top level archers over the years that I've recognized that that's not the case. And as bow hunters, then there's an even bigger disparity. But if you really look at what's happening when you shoot through paper, you're standing at 6 to 12 feet. You're aiming at a blank piece of paper, so you're not aiming,
right?
And you're just squeezing off a shot to see what it's doing through paper. The first thing you want to do is hop up and just look at where your tear is. So you're not anchored like you're going to shoot. You're not aiming as if you're at distance. You're not dealing with any wind. You're not dealing with light. You're not really having to center your peep because if you're shooting inside, you've got more room around it, more room for centering and anchor mistakes. And so you pump a shot off at 4 seconds. You come to full draw, you anchor, you look through the peep, you fire it. That shot's not the same one that you shoot when you're at 50 yards and you're aiming at a target and it's a little windy and you resettle your anchor and then you actually center it up. And now you've built a different amount of pressure at the grip. You've built a different amount of pressure and contact at your anchor, and now you squeeze it off. That one that fires at 12 seconds doesn't have the same tune. And I think that's where, the idea of, I'm shooting broadheads or I'm shooting field points. Should I sight in for broadheads? Ultimately, you just want to set your bow up to your natural tendencies. And now, whether you're doing it in the shop or through paper or whether you're doing it on the fly at the range with the new XTS system, you can do that at any point in time. Use it for paper, take it outside, shoot it again, and then even fine tune it from there if you want to.
Yeah. I assume that you do know, but in terms of like relaying this, just in a conversation, I don't know how easy it's going to be to do, but let's say for instance, I bust out a piece of paper. I've got my dot on it. So I'm aiming at the dot. I'm going to try to accomplish what you just said as best as possible. And I hit the thing, perfectly in the middle and I'm tearing, like to the left. And so like, yeah, I've got a left tear, which if you can explain that to people too. So like, I think I know pretty much what that looks like, but what does that look like to people? What does a left tear look like?
You're going to have your point is going to enter. It's going to have a little ripple. It's going to have multiple tiny little tears around it. And then you're going to have wherever that, depending on how far it goes, you're going to have your fletching behind it. So your fletching is left of your point of entry with that arrow.
Perfect.
So if you go ahead.
I was going to say, so let's say that's the case. So what is the adjustment there? What would I do? My bow shop's already set it up, but I'm noticing now I have a little bit of left tear. How would I use that XTS system to adjust that?
As you're looking at the system, the adjustment bolts are on the front of the pocket, top and bottom. So in that case, the easiest thing to remember is that if whatever tear you have, so you got a tear, left tear, as you're looking at the bow, you're gonna stiffen. You're gonna go clockwise on the bolts on the left side, and you're gonna go counterclockwise or weaken the right side.
Okay. And so
the quickest thing is just stiffen the direction of the tear. So if you're looking at the pocket, and especially if you've got a minor tear, if you've got tail left, then you're going to stiffen left limb.
Tear left, stiffen left. And so when you say stiffen, like if I'm clockwise, righty-tighty, tightening the left side of it, is that going to actually pull these limbs away from each other? Is that what it's doing?
It's actually on a ramp. And so as you tighten that drive screw, it's going to push going to pull that up the ramp, and then it's going to push that limb down. So it's actually making that limb act stiffer on the front end.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. It's hard.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like all the moving pieces of it. I mean, that makes sense to me. How did you guys figure out that like you could make an adjustment at that
at the limb pocket.
in the pocket as opposed to, whatever at the yoke or, with the spacers, how it used to be?
Yeah, I mean, you can, there are lots of ways to achieve this, right? There's tons of tuning systems that are out there. There are competitors that use different limb deflections to achieve a similar result. You want a cam lean, and so there are competitors who will send out a diagram about the orientation of the limbs and how they go on the bow to build the cam lean. It's just at that point, I'm still got to go back to a spacer kit or something in order to go tune that to my input, and then to everyone else that contacts it. So what we're doing is just utilizing that knowledge, the fact that you can change pitch through weight, whether you do it on the yoke, whether you do it with the limb deflection, whether you do it through a rocker, any of those things are viable options. It's just that none of them had any the adjustments weren't fine enough. It was always let's move this whole cam over to here, or, let's stiffen this whole side of a limb. Well, you got to take a bow apart if you're going to make any adjustments to that.
Right.
So now we can micro tune the front of this limb and where it's at and leave everything else in the exact same position. I can make micro changes to cam pitch, which is ultimately what's changing the tune.
Okay. So let's say I shoot through the paper, it's tearing left, but it's hitting the right spot. And then I stiffen the left side to fix my tear. So that should bring it in. So now I got a bullet hole through. And let's say I go back and I shoot it at 60 yards with my broadhead and I'm hitting, let's say, to the left also. What would the adjustment be then?
Same thing. So it's still telling you now, if you're hitting left now, it's telling you that your tendency is to have a little bit tail right. And that's what I was talking about. So now you've tuned it through paper. That 4-second shot's really, really good. You go outside, now you got a little bit of right impact, a little left impact. You've got a tail right that's showing up, and it can be pretty minor. Now you're just going to stiffen the right side. So as you look at the pocket, you're going to crack the lock bolt loose. You're going to tighten up the bolt on that right side of the pocket, and you're good to go.
So hitting left would reveal a right tear that we're not noticing at the short distance.
Yep.
Because of that 4-second shot you're saying versus like I'm now at 60 or whatever and I'm really sitting in and I've got other factors that are going on. Yeah,
the guys that are that are big on what I'm going to describe as super tuning, but ultimately putting a lot of time behind the bow, shooting bear shafts at distance. It's going to show you the nuances of that bow, but it's also going to show you the nuances of your arrows. It's going to give you some visibility of your inconsistencies and then anything that might change. So for me, for example, right, one of the things that shows up in that difference is the fact that a lot of times you've got a tune arrow and it's a field point, and that arrow and its spine around the shaft and how it sets up could be just slightly different than the next arrow. And so I personally, for my arrows, will knock tune all of them. I'll shoot them through paper. I'll rotate them until they give me the same tear, and then I'll tune to that tear. And that's where I'll start any bow setup. If I've got an arrow that I shoot through paper with a field point, and then I go outside and shoot a broadhead, I really want to shoot that broadhead on the same arrow. Because if I've got any deviations in knock, fit, or tune, and if you go grab a dozen arrows and you just shoot them all, you'll find that there are minor differences. You want them all to be as consistent as possible. But if I have personally went to go set up a bow for a tournament and picked an arrow in the group and tuned it and been like, man, I thought I had this close, but now I got this right tear I'm chasing down, make some adjustments, move yokes, and then the next day pull out an arrow and fire it, and now it's tail left. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I go look, and I picked the one arrow that had a hard impact, that had some run out, that wasn't great, and tuned the whole bow to it, and then the other 11 were good. And I think that's a really, really critical thing to understand, is that when I'm going through a tuning process, I got one arrow, I got one bow, and that's all that I'm working with until I go to outside. Now, if I'm going to shoot groups, now I'm going to really look at what the average is.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Predator Camo.
Man, this one feels good, right? I know people have been looking at this picture over your shoulder for a while now. I think that was 2018, but We just, over the last, how many years, keep coming back to Predator Camo because it's been so damn good for us.
No doubt. I think we bought our first set off of Jen at the Archer Trade Show almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Jen's still with the company, and the patterns have only improved since then. They actually were recently acquired within the past couple of years. We've had a chance this past year to go and meet with new ownership, talk about redesigning a lot of the old lines, plans for new patterns, all of the above. So really excited about what's to come, not only this coming year, but in years to come. There's a lot of good stuff coming from Predator.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, it's always been going back to that breakup pattern, right? That's the historic look, whether you're talking about the spring greens or brown deceptions or fall grays.
Yeah.
I mean, that breakup is really what's been so powerful for us in a tree stand. And right now, they're letting anyone use the code HUNTR on the Predator Camo website and get 20% off any of the lines, including all the new stuff that dropped here in July.
Be the Predator.
So really fundamentally starting with that arrow to make sure that arrow's in tune prior to then really going into the bow aspect of things.
Yep. Yeah. And just as important as whatever arrows you're going to shoot is tune those in.
Yep.
It's pretty minor, right? I mean, you're going to shoot through, they're going to be fletched likely coming to you, if you do your own fletching and they're already ready to go. So you've got at least, if you're shooting a 3 fletch and you're looking for clearance on a rest, you've got 3 orientations that you can check. And then you've got minor tweaks within that either side of it. But you will find most of those arrows, and sometimes it can be how the nock was pressed in. Sometimes it can be how that particular nock engages the string. Don't worry too much about the details. Just turn those arrows, twist them around, leave it knocked on your string, and shoot a couple of orientations with the different fletching pointed up. And you'll find that you can get all those arrows to tune a little bit closer to one another, and you'll eliminate a variable in your tuning and broadhead testing.
Does that XTS system have anything to do with high or low tear, or is it just horizontal?
Yes,
it does.
Yep, it is the only tuning system in the market that can handle left and right and high and low.
Wow.
So I will introduce with the fact that it doesn't replace good setup. You're not going to want to, because you have this new tool available, you don't want to just slap on a knock set at some height and then slap on a rest in some center shot position. Like your standard good best practice for setup still all applies. But the unique thing about this, a lot of times what I'll see in a bow setup over a season is that as I shoot it and I break it in, I've got it dialed. Let's say I've gone through an elk hunt. I had an elk tag this early this year, and I'm stumbling through deadfall and I'm falling and stuff. I'm putting wear on the string and things are moving, and I'm trying to shoot arrows in practice, but I'm practicing less than I was before season. But I go back and I shoot a broadhead, and I got a little bit of I got it. It's just below the dot. I've got the ability now to tighten up that top or bottom pocket, depending on what I'm looking for tail high or tail low, and bring that broadhead right back into the group. So now I don't have to worry about, do I need to adjust cam timing? Did my rest get hit? Do I need to move my sight? If everything's still pretty much on with field points and I've got a little low with a bare shaft, or I see a little bit low through paper, I can go tune that back in. And this is the only, I would say, all-inclusive tuning system that's out there for sure.
Is there a way to know outside of paper tuning, whether your bow is out of tune versus if I think most of us probably default to like my sight got bumped. And so then we immediately want to go and start moving the sight around, but like maybe it's not, maybe something did happen and your bow's out of tune. Is there a way in the field to judge that, or you got to shoot through paper?
No, not necessarily. I mean, because broadheads will tell you, I tend to keep, maybe 1 fixed blade and 3 mechanicals, depends on the hunt. Maybe I'll shoot some fixed blades. I'll get on a run and I'm using those. So I'll run fixed blades for a while. So I always keep something like that that's going to plane a little bit that I can test with. I also tend to always have in my arrow box a bare shaft. And so I can, I don't recommend shooting a bare shaft at a long distance unless you want to give up a few of them. If your tune gets way off, you're going to miss small targets. But that's the easiest way in the field is like you shoot a broadhead or you shoot a bare shaft, and it's going to tell you if you've had a rest shift happen from the last time you shot that arrow. It's kind of, that's your kind of your datum.
Oh,
your
interesting.
Stick in the mud, so to speak. If you're shooting that in your groups and you've got your bow dialed, that bare shaft or that broadhead should fall into that broadhead or field point group within reason, and then that's kind of your go-to.
Got it.
Oh, so without paper, you can tune basically a fixed blade to a bare shaft.
It's all the same.
Yeah, how you would do that.
Yep. If you shoot through paper and you got tail right, if you walk out and then shoot a bear shaft at a target at 20 yards, it'll hit left. If you grab a fixed blade broadhead and you shoot it, it'll also hit left.
Yeah.
And they're all telling you the same thing.
Telling you the same thing.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So what, like from a bear shaft side, because that makes sense. Like if you carry a bear shaft and you just go out and shoot it, what's an appropriate distance to be shooting? Am I going to see that at 20 or do I need to be at 40? Or
yeah.
You're going to see it at 20.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll hear guys shoot at 30 or, you know, 30 meters is like a very standard place to bear shaft tune a recurve, but they're doing it with a 4 foot by 4 foot target. So just, you know, keep that in mind, right? As you're trying to dial that in. 20 yards, I don't shoot one much past that. I've had setups that I'll shoot at 50, 60, just kind of to see what they can do. But you're dealing with a lot of variables. So when you break your shot, you need to be really confident in the execution that you've got, because that broadhead, that bear shaft can drive you crazy. If you're really, if you're just watching somebody describe, a bear shaft here and I shoot at 50, whatever their skill level is, it's probably pretty high if they're having success with it.
Right.
I mean, I don't mind doing it occasionally, but it'll drive me crazy.
Why is that? What is like, what's the deal?
I assume the furthest back, the more like play that's
amplifying.
Yeah, it's amplifying.
So you've got no correction. When you send that arrow down range and it's absolute perfect delivery, then it'll land right behind your fletch shafts. When it's not, then it'll just continue to plane off target like significantly. So you'll not only get, because you don't have any drag on the back of the arrow, you'll not only get a point of impact shift, you will also get an angle shift. So at 20, what you'll see is, if your field points are here and you shoot a bear shaft, it'll kind of come in at an angle. And it'll hit left if you've got tail right coming out of the bow.
Interesting. So those fletchings really play a big role in correction.
Oh yeah, it's huge. The James Yates study that he did with Easton and the precision cut guys.
That's the one that just came out when we were down there, or we were over at Hoyt. They were like, "Hey, this paper just came out." Like everybody was really stoked about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's some cool stuff in there when it comes down to what kind of broadhead you're going to shoot, what vane you might want to pick, drag against lift, and really just basically creating extra drag versus getting the right balance of drag and lift, and how that can impact your sight tape at distance. Some of the stuff in there's a little nuance to it affecting your ability to kill a deer, obviously. But there's some really good information when it comes to, what vanes you want to pick, how you want to build an arrow. If you're shooting fixed blades, which vanes have the, best correction. But there's a sound test in there. There's some good stuff.
Well, can you give us a synopsis really quick, or like an executive summary? Was it pretty clear? Like, hey, you want three vanes this length, or
I know, James's assessment, kind of the overall balanced, his best vane was a fletch 360. And I think, that's everything. Depending on what you're looking for, you can weight data, right? That's in every study it's in the world, but that's a vane that's pretty popular internally here. We have quite a few guys that like that vane. It's not super high profile, but it is 3.6 inches long. So you can put some helical on it. You get good correction. The biggest benefit to it is that it was still fairly good in fixed blade broadhead testing, but it was quiet. It was on the very quietest end of the spectrum. So that's a cool combo that you get, a very efficient amount of drag to steer a broadhead, but you still get this really quiet vane. As you get into, if you're going to shoot fixed blades, it basically said overall that you need a drag. And so you're going to probably end up with a blazer style,
like a high profile.
Yep. You're going to be in high profile. You're going to be in helical. If you kind of dig into the numbers, he also did some comparison tests with the amount of helical. The idea that you put 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees, some of those crazy looking wrapping vanes that all that did was create extra drag. And in some cases, point of impact with a fixed blade broadhead was further off target with those in the same vane that was fletched with 2 degrees. That was something that shows up in the data as well.
Interesting. So from like a generic, like let's say average bow hunter guy, if he sends 3 fletched arrows downrange at 20, and then he takes a bear shaft and sends that downrange at 20, if it's not hitting appropriately in that same group as those fletched, like he's probably got a tuning issue.
Yeah, and it could be a minor one. I mean, to be fair, like I'll take a NFA Ace 5 spot or a Vegas face and I'll do it at 20 yards inside the range. And if I'm hitting the 10, I'm not chasing anything else, even if I've got a little bit of angle built in it.
Doesn't matter.
Good arrow setup and adequate vein recovery early out, then you're going to be good. And you're going to be kind of within the consistency of what you're going to probably have for input on the bow. I had, this year I mentioned I had an elk tag. And so I was going into season kind of retesting some arrow setups, some broadheads. And one of the things that I do every day, if I'm going to go shoot, is I go out and I go with a broadhead and I shoot one arrow. And it's at whether it's at an elk target, a deer target, or it's at a spot on a big 4x4 face, I shoot one arrow and I want to see what I'm doing on the first arrow of the day. Get me 3 or 4 in and I'm going to be golden. But what am I going to do on the first one?
Out cold, man. What's it going to do?
What this year in particular, my personal setups for a few years, I'm a big advocate of the Garmin sight. I really like that for my personal setups. It's got tons of advantages from a tree stand, but we can't use it in quite a few of the Western states.
Yeah,
now.
I was going to say.
Yeah. I moved back to a pin sight, and as I did that same study that I've done for multiple years with a Garmin, I've got a reticle that tells me what my grip input is, and it will actually, you're using the reticle to align the laser, but it also aligns me. So if I'm a little bit heavy on the grip on the left side, it's going to show in the reticle. If I'm a little bit heavy on the inside, it's going to show in the reticle. So as long as I've got that, my fixed blade broadheads are money to 100 yards. I don't have any issues shooting groups out of really long range. At 50, when I was doing my test this year and I didn't have that reticle, I'd shoot 3 or 4 good ones, and I'd shoot a couple, out of a week of shooting at lunch. I'd have a couple that one was left and one was right. I didn't have the reticle, just out of the gate. I'd pull, be a little bit different on the grip that day, whatever it was.
And there was no compensation for that on the pin.
Right. Yep. And so it steered me away from a fixed blade this year on that hunt when I couldn't combine it with a Garmin sight.
Interesting.
I wasn't looking to go completely change my arrow setup, move into a different vein setup, looking for more control. I kind of had a system that I liked and I'd used in a lot of hunts, and I just shifted broadhead strategy.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, and obviously it makes sense. I mean, especially if I didn't know that the Garmin would tell you that about like your grip position or pressure on those sides. I mean, from that side of an adjustment part of it, because that's huge. Yeah, because I mean, for most of us in a pin setup, right, we've got a bubble level, right, and that's that's what we're banking it on, basically.
Yeah, it's unique. So last year when I was in Kentucky, I came to full draw. I was probably at full draw for more than a minute. And because the reticle is used to like aim the laser for getting the range, I'm sitting there, so I'm just waiting, and finally steps in a window. I go to range him, and my reticles are like completely off one another. And so I literally torqued the bow because I'm, at this point, I'm kind of breaking down. I'm shaking, right? I don't have good form at this point. I literally torqued the bow back until they're aligned. I get the yardage and then take the shot, and it was exactly where I needed it to be. But I would not have known that had I not use that sight on that.
So average guy would have yanked that shot like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you could have been this far off at 30 yards.
Yeah. What does that look like? What's the feedback that the Garmin's giving you? It's like you can see something around.
It's got an orange dot and a round circle, and so it literally just when it's dead on, it's like that, and otherwise you're going to see that reticle move either side of it.
That's super interesting. Is that would they be able to build that into a non-automatic range finding sight, like just a standard pin?
It's got backup pins. Yeah, so like if you just turn it on, it's got pins.
No, what I mean is
you're saying from like an actual pin sight.
Can they build that torque feedback technology into any other sight?
I'm sure they could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a row of LEDs, and then it's got a little angled piece of glass that's in there that actually is what is kicking back and you're looking at. And, you could just run the reticle for that. In this case, the reticle is indicating that you're ready to range. And so that's what's kind of pairing that whole thing together.
Because that's a big deal.
Because dumb question, like if you're if we're shooting a normal pin sight and we have the bubble level appropriate, we still can be torquing the bow, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Because you're talking 2 different axes.
Completely different.
You're talking second, and then you're talking third, which is what you want to get that right. But you can still steer third off with your hand. Yeah. And then you'll correct for it in second because the bubble is your only indicator.
That's what Josh Jones and Bomar were lecturing me when we were shooting tack. Because
we're like, third axis. Right.
I mean, I was constantly just left, and I'm like, but it was like, I mean, it was still good shots. It just was grouping left, and like, they're like, yeah, it's probably your third axis with all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, probably.
You're like, right,
is.
I'll probably check that. Probably check that later on when I get back.
Probably is that, right? It's coming from a whitetail guy that's shooting 40 yards for the most part, right? So, but yeah, I mean, when we got in, and then obviously when we came out to Utah and we shot with Zach and Jeremy and all those guys. And yeah, you've got all of these like insane angles there. Like it really is amplified.
I thought we held our own. We shot pretty good.
I think so.
In Utah.
Yeah. Third axis. That's why.
I sent a bomber. I sent a bomber. Dude. I think it was the last target of the day. It was like a 9,500 yard whitetail. One of those booner bucks standing out there.
Yeah.
I stepped up first and freaking laced one in there. And I think Zach stepped up and lost 3 arrows. He lost a couple throughout the course here. I was like, okay, intimidation level is like, we're going to be fine.
Yeah,
we're going to be okay.
Yeah, those courses are no joke. I think that's what makes it fun. If you just, if you're good with the fact you're going to lose some arrows, then you get out there and you push your limits.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot.
Oh, you do, man. It is really cool. I mean, especially for a lot of the whitetail guys going out there and you're used to shooting 40 and in, all of a sudden the first target you walk up is 73 yards and 10-degree uphill angle or something. It's like, oh, okay, like now we got something to go with here.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That honestly, man, I think that helps a lot just because I mean, I know there are quite a few people that are shooting Garmin's and stuff, but I mean, even just traditionally, like growing up, like I know for a fact that like I had a major torquing issue with just my shooting form. And that's one thing that I've really tried to work on, over the years. And again, it's hard when you're just shooting a standard sight with a bubble level, like, it's just not giving you the feedback you need.
Yeah, it's cool. We had one of our previous engineers actually works there now. This was a project, long before he was there. But to tie in a guy who's developed a ton of archery stuff and then be able to tie it into that. So he was part of the development in the version 2. And it's really when they went from A1i to A1i Pro, like it stepped it up for setup, for sight in, for how the reticle adjusts. Everything's micro. It's a really cool unit.
We talked about ATA. I don't know. This was before COVID, so who knows, whatever, 2015, 16, 17, sometime there. I remember a guy, it might have been in the innovation zone. He had a grip that was on like a pivot. So to eliminate torque. Yeah. So, essentially you're balancing and like it pivots essentially to get you to, I remember that.
That seems like that would have some legs.
It's incredibly difficult to execute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you're going to apply force and now you're
exactly
going to rotate it's going to find its limit. So if you've got some input torque at all within the string to your grip position, it's just going to slam to the
I remember shooting it at the target range that he had there. And just like the first time I went back, it was almost like you're balancing on like a hard wire. You're like, whoa, wait a minute here. Like I can't, like all of a sudden I'm just twitchy all over the place trying to keep it, steady.
Oh, like, so its relation back to you is hard to find a center point on kind
exactly.
of
Like it's not just like, you don't just set in set into it. It's like your wrist is now constantly trying to do a balancing.
What would that look like, dude? I mean, if you were going to try to like eliminate torque altogether, how would you approach that?
That was actually a project that we kicked off in concept, our target compound, 2 years ago. And we did a big study on input torque, cam design, string position, loads across the axle, just looking for how to reduce it overall. And, that was some of the messaging that went along with RX-9, but that was the biggest shift in RX-9 was really just natural point of aim, quicker target acquisition. Because what we did in that cam system in implementing a 4-track cable system that allowed us to move the string track around. We've made some changes to grip position, to roller mount. That's ultimately what all that was for.
Well,
when you're talking about like trying to make a grip adjustable, movable, that is a very, very difficult execution. And then it's not consistent person to person. There's been multiple attempts at that over the years. I mean, that's an archery invention that's probably even back into the 80s or 90s. There's been effort put into it multiple times. And ultimately what you want as the archer is the simplest solution. And you just want torque reduced in the bow. If you put some into it, then that's what tuning's for. That's what those adjustments are for. You can accommodate that minorly, but ultimately you don't want a system that has any bias in it. You want it as neutral as possible. And so that's been our approach, is to design it out of the bow, put it in a shooting machine, draw it back from brace height to full draw, have it stay aligned as best we can. And then after that, tune it to your input at the grip. And
well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, ultimately you tune the bow to you. That's why, like, you know, it's great, like whether it's Tim or whoever, but ultimately that bow's got to be tuned to how you're holding it, how you're shooting it, you know, and you need a starting point there. But I think a big one for me was, one of the early bows that I shot was the Carbon Spider, and that had a much thicker grip. And so as the progression of the grip has changed on a lot of bows, I find that I'm not torquing nearly as much as when I had that like wider grip from like the early Carbon Spider side of things.
Yeah. Yeah. When we do a grip project, it takes a while for us to get to where we want to be, for those reasons. You know, you can build for comfort, and then you can induce torque. It can be just it's an anatomical thing. Everybody's a little bit different. So we want to minimize surface area as much as possible, but still make it accommodate everyone that's going to lay their hand into it in whatever position they're going to do it. And our grip projects can be very labor intensive trying to get that right.
Such a cool thought process, like tying it clear back to beginning when you talked about like the deer camps. Like I remember guys that would just like hand my grandpap their gun to shoot it in. Like they just were like, I can't shoot my gun in or whatever. So they'd hand it to my grandpap and be like, yep, I shot it in, and then hand it back. And it's like, you know, think about that, like at the bow level, like if we could do, just give me your bow and I'll just sight it in for you and then like hand it back to you. You
could do it with a gun, right? Because it's just on sandbags.
To a point. I mean, there's still like, where's your pressure on the, you know, your cheek on the stock? Like, how are you looking through this? In theory, yes. Like if it's sighted in, like it should be good, but there's still minor things there.
We definitely have some built-in, like, you know, mechanism of like, you know, over the years as we've gotten better at archery, you can tell when you're putting torque on a certain, you know, system, whether it's the rear or the front, because then if you're intentional about like relaxing it, you almost feel the bow go back to like a state of like, oh, okay. It wants to be there. And then whether this is right or not, I don't have an archery coach or something. It's like, I've tried to replicate that as many times as I can to come to a point where I feel like the bow is sitting in a natural position. I'm torquing it as minimally as I can from as far as what I can tell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, and there's a lot of stuff. Then there's like face pressure and all this other stuff.
Well, and all of it too.
Play.
Yeah. Try to be aware of all of it, you know?
Yeah. One thing that I know you have, and I haven't gone off of it, Brian, is Jared's gone to an 80% let off now.
Yeah.
And I think I'm still at 85%. And we've talked about that with a lot of guys who are much better at archery shooting than we are.
Omar told me I was a pussy and I needed to go to 75% let off. So I went to 75 and I was like, I can't do this. So then I was like, this is crazy. So I went back to 80, but that feels comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, we've got a ton of adjustability in those cam systems, and I think maybe it's a little underutilized feature when it comes to that, you know, the archer actually testing some of that stuff out, right? You bumping from 85 to 80 probably stabilized your sight picture and probably gave you a little stronger feeling shot.
Definitely.
You know, you're a pretty big dude, and you could probably handle some holding weight. I don't know if I would call you a pussy, but
well, Belmar's bigger than me, so I guess I didn't do anything about it. So.
He's running 90 pounds and 75% let off. He wants as much holding weight as he can get. So, but you know, there's a reality there where, you know, you got to kind of balance your shooting style. If you want to get better at archery and you're going to shoot a lot, you're going to build muscles, you're going to get stronger. If you don't adapt the bow to that strength gain, then you're going to constantly be backing out of it. And so if you think about, you know, I don't know if I got into golf a few years ago, but golf and archery have a lot of parallels. And, you know, if you take the clubs that fit, you know, Steve Anderson, that's 6'7" in our marketing department, and you pair him with one of our technicians back here that's 5'9", like they're not going to be able to swing the same golf clubs.
Right.
They're also not going to be able to shoot the same bows. Fitting is a big thing in golf. Fitting is a big thing in archery. And, you know, one of the things that I think gets overlooked is, you know, trying to make the bow shoot better for you. Ultimately, you need the bow to be able to adapt to whatever you're doing. So in your case, you're shooting 85%, because some of the things that come with an 85% let off feel is that when you get to full draw, the bow probably has a little more waggle. It also, you know, maybe is a little twitchier as it moves around on the target. You build strength at a higher level, that's what you're going to see. When you go to 80% let off, two things are going to happen. You're going to shorten the draw length just a hair, because you're basically pushing that stop forward. It's like a 1/16 of an inch, but it might be enough to get you a little bit higher pressure. It's also going to physically put more pressure against you. So it's going to force you, for a lot of people, what it can do is take someone who maybe is, overusing shoulder and bicep muscles to pull back and then almost shooting just with an index trigger, just squeezing off with a trigger, you get holding weight up just a hair, and it'll force you to move into better bone-to-bone contact. It'll force you to get out of those small muscle groups. It'll force you to get into your back. And now when you go squeeze on that trigger, your shot breaks, you follow through, the front arm fires to the target, the back arm follows through, and you get a more consistent, more repeatable shot. And that's the benefit of it, right? So you go from 85 to 80 to 75. I'm not a guy who shoots 75, but I'm also not a guy who shoots 80. I normally shoot 85 on my hunting setups because I might get stuck at full draw for a minute, and that's just the reality.
Yeah, we don't look like Jared.
Well, and you adapt that. No, because listen, dude, being at full draw for a minute is my worst fear. And that ties in a lot to your mindset. I do not draw on animals that are not in a window I can shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably because you've had success not getting busted drawing on them, right?
I pride myself on it. I think I can get away with a draw on.
I think it's a confidence thing, right? Because anybody who has, like we had Zach who killed that 200-inch deer in Ohio. He's like, as soon as he saw that deer, he like picked up his bow and just went into full draw.
I was like, as soon as you saw it, you're full draw.
What do you mean? And he's like, yeah, I just went right into full draw immediately. I wasn't getting caught because
that's crazy to me.
Previously, though, he had gotten caught drawn on it and didn't kill the deer. So like, it's all mental at that point. It has nothing to do even with physical strength. It's literally, am I going to have to get this thing back now because I need to get it back? And that's like a little bit of buck fever, right? They feel like they have to get it back.
I don't think anybody at any percentage of let off should be banking on, like, I'm just good at holding it for a long time. Because, dude, your form deteriorates so quickly. Like, yeah, dude, your
everything,
your blood deoxygenates. Like, it's a high rep. It's like an endurance thing.
Well, you feel yourself
by the end of it, you're gonna do.
And the bow wants to go, to Brian's point, I bet, like around that 85 versus the 80. Like, I sometimes, like, if I hold like for a long, even just target, like I'll just practice holding for a minute or whatever, and like I'll feel myself just letting, and the bow wants to go, but at 85, I'm strong enough to be like, okay, no, sit back in the pocket, like just wait, right, to recover. Right. At 80. I don't think I would. I'd be like, oh, like it wants to go. You know what I mean? So it's just, those are the things I think as you think about it, like I'm sure, to Brian's point, like all of those benefits can come at an 80%, but like you've got to be physically ready for that.
Yeah. But there's comfortability. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Yeah. Now we've got some cool features built into the cam. So if I was going to say, if somebody's telling me they'd like to improve their shot or, they'd like to improve hold, I would say let's bump your holding weight up a little bit. Let's move from 85 to 80.
Okay.
But to pair with that, I would also move from extra hard to hard. So we've got, those feet are built with a little, they're, if you want to call them a dog leg, but basically the stops are offset for their adjustment.
Yeah.
And you can take the top stop and move it to the bottom, and the bottom stop and move it to the top, and it'll actually take what is a leverage point away from the axle, and it'll flip it over and move it closer to the axle.
Okay.
And so, if you're going to get to more holding weight, then you can also build some more valley into that. So if you were going to try that, I would say move it from 85 to 80, then move from extra hard to hard. And now you've got some extra holding weight pulling against you, but you've also got some additional valley because you just let your wall expand a little bit more.
So you're just saying like you're going to drop into a deeper pocket basically at the back?
Yeah. If you just go from 85 to 80 in that extra hard setting, it is going to feel like it's a little shorter.
It feels like it wants to go.
Yep. So now I'm going to make that wall just a hair softer and flip those feet. And now I'm going to get the benefit of the pressure, and I'm going to not be as concerned.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why that's designed into that system. So you've got that. If you're the higher the let off percentage, the harder the wall needs to be. That way you can't overpower it. Right at 90 or 85.
Yeah, you want
holding,
that hard wall back there.
9 pounds, 10 pounds, 11 pounds. So you kind of need the wall to stop you. But when you get into 12 to 15 pounds, now you want a little expansion. You want a little bit of give.
Yeah.
And the cams on on today's bows, HPX Gen 4, they've got all of that adjustability built into them.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Lone Wolf Custom Gear.
Man, those lone wolf stands have become such a cornerstone of our equipment over, recently, but I mean, also we've been using these stands for a long time, even the original lone wolves. They're all built right here in the United States. The lines just keep getting better and better. Cody and Andre and the whole team just keep innovating and introducing new stuff into the line this year. And they've got some new things coming this year.
Yeah, so this year we've got the Patriot Series, which, a lot of people are talking about this as being the cheaper, just fixed position side of things. But let's be honest, they can be mobile too, right? They weigh 12 pounds. But they're built from a value standpoint. So for guys like us who want to have 3, 4, 5 preset stands out there for certain wins, we can put this Patriot Series out there, have them ready. Nothing better than slipping up into one of these fixed position stands that's already set on the right wind.
No doubt. And so this year, as of right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR. It's a one-time use promo code. Gets you 10% off anything on the Lone Wolf Custom Gear website. That's any of the custom gear stuff, any of the Patriot Series. So whether you're planning on getting into one for the first time or you want to stack a big order here before the season, code HUNTR will get you 10% off.
Hunt like a wolf. So that makes a lot of sense. So if you're in that position of I'd like to go from 85 to 80, but I'm not sure that I can hold like that. If you soften up that back wall by moving to hard on the stops, now you've got a softer wall, a little bit bigger, valley to dip into. That makes sense.
And beyond that, as you're looking at that cam system there's 5 individual mods that kind of optimizes every inch. And then you've got 1/4 inch draw length adjustments within those mods. One of the things you can also do, I think maybe it was Dudley last year. I was talking to him when we transitioned from RX-8 to RX-9. We took a bow that was a 7-inch brace height at 34 inches and would max out draw length at 32. And then we built it to 33 inches and a little over 6. And now it maxed out draw length at 31. He's kind of a 31-inch guy. He can crawl into a 30, but he's right at 31 is really where he prefers to shoot. So when you looked at his comparison and draw force curves, he's in a 7-inch brace height, and I'm going to say kind of in the middle of the module from an RX-8 Ultra. He's got a little smoother draw cycle. He's got a little less brace height. Overall, he's just got this little bit softer feel. When he moves into 9, he's got a shorter brace height, and he's at the very top of the cam, which can feel a little more aggressive. So for him, I gave him the same type of recommendation. I said, move from extra hard to hard in the feet, but then also move down 1/4 inch. When you soften that wall, most people are going to shoot off pressure. You're going to build pressure, you're going to squeeze, and you're going to fire. So if your pressure point, let's say it's around 12 pounds, if I'm going to move you in those feet, now at 12 pounds is a little bit longer in draw length. It's going to add maybe 1/8 inch to your actual firing position where you're going to trigger your shot. You can move that draw mod down just 1/4 inch to accommodate for that. And what you'll end up with is also a smoother draw from the 1/4 inch shift, because it's going to roll the back end of that curve just a little bit.
Right.
It's going to transition a little softer. And then you're going to have a little more valley built out of that foot as well.
When you talk about softening the feet, I stepped out there for a minute. You talk about taking the rubbers out?
No, it's actually switching them top to bottom.
Yep.
Doing what?
You can loosen the bolts. So those feet are actually like sidestepped. Like the bolts are here, and the stop that contacts the cable is here. And so you can take the top foot and move it to the bottom. And what that does is basically reverse that relationship. So now your foot is closer to the axle. It's now got less leverage as it pushes against the cable, so it softens the wall. So those two feet positions have.
You can see I'm not understanding.
You can see how mine's set up.
Yeah,
I bet both of yours are set up in the opposite orientation.
Yeah.
Mine's on the inside. It's closer to the axle, so that's going to hit further. It's going to hit closer down to the axle on the cable as well. It's going to have less leverage. And then if I move this foot to the bottom and then take the bottom and move it to the top, my contact point's going to move over to here.
Right.
And that's going to be further out the cable. It's going to have more leverage. It's going to stiffen it up.
Yep. Have that harder wall.
So sorry to rerun through this. Now that I'm understanding what it looks like to switch those feet, they come from the factory standard.
Extra hard.
Extra hard. Setting. Yep. That's hard back wall.
Okay.
Right.
Extra hard.
Yep.
And then so by shifting to hard, by switching them, it shifts them just to hard.
Yep. And that's what we called them.
And what does that accomplish?
In your example where you were switching from 85 to 80, it'll actually give you some valley. So if you are worried about 80 being a little more holding weight and the ability to pull on you a little bit too much or to creep out of the wall, you can actually create perceived valley by adjusting those feet. So when you pull it back, you'll feel it immediately. If you've been shooting that 80% at extra hard, it'll feel softer, and the aim will actually get a little bit slower because you're not so tight.
You're basically sitting back in, and it doesn't feel as much that it wants to go because you have
you're
a
going to have
softer
your
wall.
holding weight. You're just going to have some room.
Yep.
Interesting. But okay, so then you would recommend doing that if you're going to reduce your let off?
Yep.
To switch those?
Yep. Yeah. Like you described 75. You're like, hell no, I'm not shooting this. Like, that's too short. You've lost valley and you've gained holding weight. So if you flip those feet, I bet you wouldn't mind shooting 75.
Oh, well, see, yeah, because in my mind, that was literally how you were achieving it. Like I would have guessed that by doing what you're telling me, it would literally nullify it.
Yeah. You'll maintain the pressure there. And that's, if you look at top level archers, one of the things that Josh is balancing well in his setups, if he's telling you to get more holding weight, one of the things to recognize is that he's a big dude and he shoots a lot of weight on his bow. I mean, he's got a 15-inch rod out the front and maybe another one out the side, and they've got multiple ounces of tungsten weights on them. And so if you're going to run that type of setup and then 85% let off, that bow is going to move around on you, right? It's there's just too much weight forward.
Yeah.
The CG is not at the grip anymore. It's way in front of your hand. And so as you pull, if you don't stabilize it, it's going to waggle and move around on you. You can stabilize that by adding holding weight, which is what all the top archers, they shoot 60 pounds and then they'll shoot somewhere from, 15 to 22, 23 pounds of holding weight. And then they're shooting a bow that's 10 plus pounds. If you look at the big stabilizer setups in compound archery today on the target side, Josh is going to have a similar weight setup. I don't know if he's at 10 pounds, but it's pretty heavy. And he's having to match that with holding weight. I think that's something that's often overlooked. If you like running a heavier stabilizer setup, you will benefit from having some holding weight to stabilize that on the back end.
That makes sense.
Interesting. So you can increase holding weight by reducing let off, but then you can
create a perceived valley instead of just a super hard wall, which is why you get that creep.
Interesting. And there's only one switch there, right? You just switch the top to the bottom. It's hard and extra hard. Those are your two settings.
Yep.
Okay.
But it's a pretty dramatic difference in feel. So this year on my 10, coming from a 9, I was actually shooting a little bit longer draw length, right at 30, and I was shooting extra hard at 85%. When I set that up this year, I was like, I've got an elk hunt. Sometimes you got to make quick decisions. I think I'd rather be a little bit shorter in case we get some cold weather and give me some extra clearance. So I bumped down 1/4 inch, but then I did switch from extra hard to hard, and that kind of filled in that gap. I got a little more valley, but then I also didn't take out that full quarter that I was that I had already adjusted within the module.
Making those changes, does that require retuning? No. I could easily go hunt tonight and just make that change and then go hunt with it.
He'd probably want to shoot it because he's saying you're going to feel different.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm anxious to try that out now.
Yeah,
I could even do it on the 9.
That would
just mess with it.
That would make me lean heavier to go into an 80, just because, like
it
I
would
said,
make me maybe go to 75.
Creep, I bet.
Because why not? That was the problem. Was like it just felt like.
It wasn't the weight necessarily.
It wasn't comfortable to hold it there.
It was the creep.
It was a creep, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about?
So you've lost valley, gained holding weight. Now you're just getting your valley back.
Is there any pro or con to like the little rubber spacers that you have like on the feet?
Well, I mean, they're draw dampers. That's what we call them. They're there to quiet down the contact as you come to full draw. Those cables are at high tensions. If you pluck them, it's got a fairly high frequency response that can make noise. If you just let a metallic stop hit it, then it's gonna, tink.
Dink. Okay. So you can laugh at me for this, and maybe you didn't know guys were doing this. I took those out in the past because I felt like it gave me a harder wall.
It will.
It will.
Yep.
Okay. So I wasn't crazy.
Yeah, we're designing it to hit that machined contact spot on the foot, and we're using that little bump in the rubber to basically just slow that down. When you come tap full draw, you almost push through it. Now, if you creep off a little bit, and most people will, right? If you go to just shoot your shot, that's going to push on you just a hair. But it's really to quiet that contact down. So no matter what cam orientation you're in or how hard you pull into the wall, you've got as quiet a setup as you can when you need to.
So you would recommend leaving them in?
I shoot with them in, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We have plenty of people that pull them out. They're if you're looking at minor tweaks in feel and draw length and that sort of thing, it's something that I see some of our target archers, some of our pro staff in that game, a lot. I'd say more of them are removing them than on the hunting side, but there's no disadvantage. You're not affecting performance or anything other than cable contact.
Interesting. Could you achieve that some other way? Like in my mind, I felt like that rubber, even as small as it is, it was room for some sort of like whatever you call that, like cushion or like movement basically in the wall. Could you could you achieve that with some sort of other, like, I don't know, hard plastic, like
so you could do it in what you're talking about, right? So if you've pulled that rubber out, you've made it just a hair firmer. Now you can move those feet top to bottom, bottom to top, and you now have made the wall softer, but you don't have the rubber in there.
So say that one more time.
The same thing that you're doing when you move, if you're wanting to firm it up, you've got, if you were going to look at it as like let's say just a range of adjustment, your hardest setting to what you're describing would be in the extra hard without rubber.
Okay.
And then next would be extra hard with rubber. And then next would be in the flipped mod feet positions, it would be hard without rubber. And then it would be hard with rubber.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of those would feel slightly different.
So, okay. So in theory, and I don't know, maybe it's somewhere in between, but like, is it worth just going all the way to the extreme? So I would go home and just flip the mods, rubbers in.
That'd be the softest
75% let off.
That'd be the softest wall with,
but the highest holding power.
Correct.
And is that what you want?
No, you just want a balance. I think that's the most critical thing, and that's why it's hard to give an answer to everybody.
Yeah.
Josh is doing it right when he's shooting a bow that's, I'm going to say in the 8.5+ pound range. He may be north of 10, and then balancing that with some holding weight, that bow is going to shoot better for him. I think some of the things that are going on in the industry, and it's why Hoyt builds all the adjustability into the system that we do. I think when someone's locked into an 85 or 90% let off, the perception is that I want that. That's what I want. The reality is you need to pair that with a super lightweight bow. Because if you've got a really heavy bow and not a lot of holding weight, now you are physically having to carry the weight of that bow with your front arm and shoulder. Ideally, you're balancing the back end pressure to kind of hold that bow up and hold it in the middle. When you hear people talking about, I've got this bow set up, and man, I dip out the bottom nonstop. I just can't hold it in the middle.
Not enough holding weight. 90%
of the time, they've got an 8.5 pound bow with every accessory they could put on it with 9 pounds of holding weight.
Yeah.
So they're carrying the weight on their shoulder and bicep, and they don't have enough muscle engagement in their back because they don't need it when you've got 90% let off in the way the bow's put together.
Well, for what it's worth, I feel really comfortable with where I'm at. I guess in my mind, it seems like I could get a little bit more holding weight and at 75% let off, and then be comfortable at that by switching the feet around. And that seems like it would be advantageous to do that.
Yeah. We have a lot of our internal guys, and especially Western guys, that have high expectations at longer distance that are shooting 80, and a handful that are shooting 75.
Yeah. Just for that long range, slow it down on the target.
A lot of them are target guys too.
Yeah.
So they're shooting the target bow at, a few events a year that, they got 18 pounds of holding weight on that at 60 pounds. So they move to a target bow. They don't want to move down to 10, so they're using those foot adjustments to keep them within a range that they're comfortable with.
I'm pretty excited to try that now, just to see what that feels like.
Yeah. No,
I bet a lot of people don't know about switching the feet like that to make that up.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, like I said, there's a ton of adjustments in that system. When you get down to 1/4 inch adjustment within the mods, then you got to hard and soft wall settings. Then you've got from 85s, 80, and then to 75. And if you want to go as far as you are, which is pulling the rubber out, then you've got a lot of feel adjustability within that cam system to change draw force curve feel, roll off valley, wall expansion. It can change your shot timing. It's worth playing with.
Interesting.
Well, maybe I won't do it tonight before we leave for Illinois. But.
Probably not. But I mean, it is worth knowing that's there as an option, because it is the creep that always gets you, not the weight, the holding weight.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I'm comfortable with where it's at now. So I'm shooting 80 pounds, and with that, I'm at the 80 with the extra hard configuration, and that's been good for me. I like it there, and rubber's in.
Rubber's in.
I've shot rubbers out in the past, and I can't say that I noticed like a big enough difference, but
yeah, I didn't know that just so it's just contact on the feet.
That's what I felt. I just felt as a harder back wall, which I liked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, dude, what would you say? Maybe this is a hard question, but as an engineer, are you satisfied with this RX-10? Are you like, hey, this is my best work ever? Obviously, it can always be better, but what do you think?
I will say it's not necessarily my work at this point. We've got a whole team that's working on these projects every year. This is it. I actually got to looking at this before our sales meeting. This might be the first product cycle we don't have something in there that I've worked on. So it's like a couple generations of product. We've just kind of moved away from any of the last cams, the last risers. That's all kind of done. But I am really excited about this product line. This is something that's been coming for a few years. Being in the role that I'm in, every year, going to sales and marketing and putting it on the project list, like, hey, tuning system's still in the mix. We got it.
Yeah.
We've got some prototypes. We built them. We've taken multiple systems into the field at this point, and they just don't end up making the final cut. So when we got here this year, we had Josh Jones. I was talking to him, and he was like, yeah, you guys built some good stuff, but would you build an MF tuning system? It's like,
yeah.
He's like, when is that gonna be out?
My bow shop's been saying the same thing for years.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I think, for us, it's, I think, from sales and marketing side, they were excited every year we came to the table and said we had it in the project sheet. When we didn't land it, it's a little disappointing,
right.
But they also know that when we land it, it's going to be right.
It's the right one.
It's going to be robust. It's going to be easy to use. And I'm super excited with where it landed. We didn't start on the front end of this believing that we were going to get to a place that we could adjust left and right, that we could also add up and down. You want to get into the nuances of this. You can even use this to make micro changes in weight and get you back on in a sight tape.
Right.
You guys were talking sight tapes. Oh, I'm on 31 or I was on 32 or whatever it is. Throughout the season, if you get to the end of the year, I'm going to say most people, if they go check their bow, it's kind of the close enough check.
Sure.
But if you really step out to 80 and you shoot groups, I'd say a lot of people end up seeing I'm kind of at the bottom of the dot.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I was good. Now I'm kind of at the bottom of the dot. It's one of those things, like if you're shooting your bow maxed out, now what do? You put it in a press, you maybe add some weight. Ultimately, what it is a little bit of loss in speed due to some loss in poundage as everything settles in. And that happens fairly early on, but you've already put a sight tape on there. So now it's like, do I need a new tape? Do I have to resight this thing back in? You can use this system to drive all 4 of those bolts in half a turn at a time and just walk your group right back up into that dot and have it back on for the sight tape.
Isn't that awesome? And that's assuming you're confident enough in your ability to tune, but the perfect way to do it would be actually put it on a scale. And if you start the season at 82 pounds and by the end of the season you're at 80.5, you can just dial them screws up and regain the poundage.
Did you do that last year? You ended up putting a tape up on, I don't remember if it was going into this year or that was last year, on the RX-9 maybe?
What did I do?
You were at, 31, and you're like, I should be at 32.
Yeah, and honestly, that was probably just my subjective.
Could have been.
Whether I'm I've changed throughout the season or something happened, but I'm hitting low, so
Well, I say that because I think we had RX-9s last year, and we started this year with RX-9. So, it would have been, basically like Brian saying it would have been the end of the season. It would have been us going through a full season with those bows if it settled in somewhere.
But it probably did.
Mm-hmm. But and then obviously now it's to that point, it's okay, do I go up a tape? What do I do? Do I move the entire sight housing down a little bit? There are all these things that I don't really want to mess with necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel as confident as I ever have in terms of I'm going to get this thing to, it's shooting great now, but I'm going to put it through paper and, learn something.
For sure.
Maybe mess with some of those let off adjustments and stuff there too. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we, our internal team, we've been using them for a little while. Jeremy Eldridge, our director of marketing, he came back and he was like, all right, I got a 10. I don't want anybody to touch it. I know every year I have the engineering technicians kind of put it together for me. I just want to do this myself. So he just disappears in the lab. I think it's maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and he comes back and he's like, this is the easiest thing to use on the planet. I've got nothing. You guys have shown it to us. I know functionally what's going on, but I've got no resource. I told those guys to leave me alone. Just let me shoot it. I pulled it out, had a pretty decent setup, had some tail right in it, and it was all right, normally I'd go move spacers, maybe I'd chase that with rep a little bit, and I just stiffened, it's a tail right, so I'm going to stiffen the right limb. I gave it half a turn, It was a return. It was a little bit too much. I backed part of that off, and I was done. It was 3 arrows, and I was out the door ready to rock. That's what we're looking for.
That's cool,
awesome.
man. I mean, the that tuning aspect for the average guy to be able to do those micro adjustments and stuff, I mean, really builds to what we just all said, is like we've got a lot of confidence in our setups because of that ability, and know, like, even call it like season, in season panic of like, if something like that happens, it's like, now what do I do? Do I got to go to my bow shop? Like, there's a lot of things. And then, I mean, it's, we talk about how days are so valuable at this point in the year. It's like, you just don't want to be out of the game, essentially.
Well, that ease of tunability is such a big deal. Like, I'm one of those guys. So I shoot it's an HHA single pin. That's the sight that I shoot. And it's super easy. Like a bunch of them are to adjust and make micro adjustments. On any given day, I might click it left, click it right, just kind of chase it around throughout the season. Mm-hmm. It's fun to know that, like, I might be able to get to that point from a tunability of my bow standpoint to like know it well enough, whether I'm shooting it through paper or hitting left or right, to be able to do that with this new system.
Well, even talking about the bear shaft side of things, like, I don't think I would have ever had the confidence to shoot one and then know what to do with my bow necessarily in the field, especially.
Right.
So to have that and to be able to just carry it with me and be like, hey, I'm going to go out and sling 3 fletched ones at 20 and then shoot that. Yep, it looks good. Or it's a little off, and then be able to, tighten down on one of the limb sides. Like that for somebody who isn't comfortable tuning their bow with, normal steps, like, that makes me feel a lot better to be able to know that I could do that if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, I know you can't say too much about, you guys keep like future projects close to the chest here and stuff, but like from an engineering standpoint, like what are some things that like you would like to see out of future models, or is there certain, things that you'd like to strive for, or I'll pose that to you.
I mean, I think we go through every year and do an objective group of testing. We look at our competitors, where we fall against them. We send them through some of our own internal tests. And ultimately, unless we're on an innovation track, a push for product, which we often have at least one of those projects going on, that's a little bit outside the box, maybe a little far reaching. Those are the ones that, often don't land, but lead to other developments. And I would say if we're not in that, then, we're setting the criteria to be the best balanced bow on the market. And, whether it's going after sound and vibration, I mean, there was a year where that was clearly the goal. You could see that in market feedback. We were just chunking vibration out of it. We were changing dampers. We were updating the system to use less need to use less dampers, optimize the weight of the dampers that we had. We were just looking for any benefits and efficiency.
Yeah.
And if you look at the industry 10 years ago, it's related to performance, right? We were pushing cam systems and trying to get efficiency. I'd say today, our outlook is really about integration. It's in customizable use. We've got a big focus within our accessory group and how that accessory group functions, and then how it's going to be used in the field, that I think will continue to kind of push the envelope in terms of how the customer wants to use their product. A number of years ago, we kind of revamped all the accessories kind of in one shot. We introduced the pick rail inline sight system. We introduced the inline super light quiver system with tons of adjustability. We launched the lower stabilizer, an integrated SL sidebar mount stabilizer attachment. That was a big shift in industry, because we had companies that were building sights that were fully featured, right? I mean, a number of years ago, you would have bought a 5-pin sight. It would have been 6 ounces, and that's what you'd have slapped on the bow. So needing all those other components to try to lower weight really wasn't a big benefit. Today, when you look at a Garmin that's, a pound maybe, you look at some of these fully featured, Excels and Spot Hogs, everybody's working to try to pull weight out of these things. But when you put a full 5-pin unit and a mover and all the mechanisms and locks that go with that, you're adding weight above your hand to get. And so because you're adding a ton of feature that the archer wants, now as the bow manufacturer, we need to go design the system to be optimized with that. No longer is it okay to just use a lightweight 5-pin sight. We've got to design the bow. So that was the whole project that just evolved for us. Lower stabilizers, go sticks, that whole accessory group took weight that would have otherwise been closer to the grip, and we moved it all to the perimeter of the bow. And and so you look at kind of the next phase of that, right? Now you get into whitetail hunting, you get into Western hunting. there's a whole range of things that we're working on developing that I would say over the next few years that are going to change the way you'd use that and start to tailor the bow and the accessory and the whole system to your application. You got an elk hunt early in the season, sweet. Here's the setup that's optimized for that. You're going to hunt whitetails all November and into the cold. Here's the setup that's optimized for that. I think for us as high-end users, it's not just about let's get another 5 feet a second. I want to get 5 feet a second and have a smoother draw cycle. So we're going after efficiency to try to get that out of it. But I also want it to hold better. I want it to balance better. I want it to aim better. I want it to get on the target quicker. And that's where that whole system, thought process and development really comes into play. And that's something that we've differentiated ourselves over the last few years with. And I think you're going to see that continue to expand. We got some exciting stuff there.
Right on. We can kind of start winding down here with this, but I'll give you a moment for some honesty here. Some of these improvements that we noticed, like the 16% quieter, the smoother, perceived smoother draw cycle, are those things that you intended with this XTS system, or are those things that just kind of worked out?
In the bigger benefits in vibration came through aluminum this year. And that was just within the change in the structure. So if you go look at it, two things happened. One, the 29 riser design is updated quite a bit. If you go compare it to the AX-2 or the Alpha series, we saved some weight, but we really stiffened up that riser. That's where some of the vibration benefit came from. Okay. From sound, I think most of that it just exists within some tweaks that we made to the tune. So if you go look at the string and cable tunes between a 9 and a 10, you look at similar geometries, you'll find some small manipulations there. That's just continued study for us. That's really looking at, can we refine this a bit further? Can we make this draw cycle a little smoother because it changed dynamics? We also moved the Alpha 32 back up to a 33 for a couple different reasons, but that 33 is really optimized. So it's got another little bump down in vibration compared to last year's 32, and sound comes down with that. Generally speaking, the little bit longer axle-to-axle bows can be a little bit quieter because it's got the string tension's the same, but it's on a wider span. So that kind of softens that impact. It makes the sound, it drops frequency, to the human ear. We prefer, a little lower frequency to higher pitch and frequency. And so that's where those benefits are coming from.
Did you hear that answer? It was, oh yeah, no, we meant to do that.
We meant to do it. It was on purpose.
That was the right answer.
It's been the plan the whole way.
Yeah. We meant to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, awesome, dude. Well, listen, man, we appreciate you spending some time with us today, and we tell those guys all the time we appreciate our partnership with Hoyt, and it's for these reasons, like just having these conversations, and I hope a lot of people listening to this understand the care and the attention and the passion behind the company for what they're creating, and obviously we got that here again with you to resonate that. And so that's important to us as hunters and as archers to understand that the people that they're building and planning out these bows cares about what we care about so much. I think that if anything, that's probably one of the most important things that we got to hear today from you, man. And that's cool because it's relatable, right? Far too often in this industry, just the way that it has gone with capital groups and stuff, a lot of the people that you're talking to decision-making wise, you're like, this person doesn't live my lifestyle. They don't know what I'm really caring about. They don't care about what I'm actually saying. Like, hey, these could be things that you guys could pay attention to. I don't think we've ever had a conversation with anybody at Hoyt that hasn't been relatable to who we are.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're spot on. I think at the end of the day, especially in our engineering department, but across the board in the company, like we're just a bunch of dudes who love to do the same stuff you guys do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, I moved from Kentucky to Utah to chase my passion for archery, not to just get a job at Hoyt. I had a lot of respect for Hoyt as a brand and my experience in selling the product in the shop. And it was we're a keystone brand in the industry that I wanted to be a part of, and have had a great run here. And, I mean, we're here today a little early, not because that was the best schedule. It's because you guys are headed to Illinois and I'm headed to Kentucky, and that's when we can put it together. And that's what it's all about.
Hey man, there's only so many good weather days, especially when you're talking late October, early November. So you got to jump on them when those come up.
Yep, that's no doubt.
Well, listen, man, we appreciate it very much, and appreciate the bows and the quality, and super. Hopefully, all three of us put them to use this week. That's the plan, at least.
Yeah.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Mountain Tough.
Man, as everybody knows, physical fitness is super important to both you and I, Jared. And so whether it's training for the Badlands so that we can pack out a muley or our weekly whitetail hunts, the thing that we don't want is to be a big piece of shit in the woods this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, dude, even just in our daily lives, whether we're planting food plots, running our businesses, spending time with our family, we just want to feel good. And that all starts with physical fitness.
Yep. So this year we're partnering with the Mountain Tough app, cool new app that you can go in. You can do rucking, you can do weighted vests, you can do minimal gear, but basically the app has both coached and self-guided courses, anything and everything you need to be mentally and physically tough for this hunting season.
And so right now you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, on the Mountain Tough website. That's mtntough.com. It does have to be the website. It can't be either of the app stores to get that discount applied. You get a free 2-week trial anyway, so anybody can go on and use that. But while you're signing up, use that code HUNTR. You'll get an additional free month after that trial period to use the app. That's a total of 6 weeks. That's a huge savings.
So this season, get Mountain Tough. Well, pretty cool. I mean, I think we talked about it when we took the trip out there, just seeing the factory and kind of what we saw with Evan and stuff. But like, obviously, hearing it from Brian and what his team is doing and the thought process behind it too. It's like, it's really cool to kind of see the improvements around the bow, but like even now, like that system is really for us as the end user. It's like they're building that and I mean, bow shops are using it too, but they're building it so that we can create a better performance out of that bow to us directly. Mm-hmm. Which I think is just says a lot about the company and kind of what they're doing. They're trying to make a product that can be tuned better to ourselves. Yeah. And yeah, I just don't think you see that in a lot of other things. Yeah. Or at least a good one.
It's awesome, dude. I mean, truthfully looking back, and who knows, maybe at the time I was like, oh, this is that, or,
Mm-hmm.
Every time you get a new bow in your hands, it can take some time to.
Yeah, I told you. I have a little bit of fear around it of like switching bows. Here, it's October 28th. We're filming this.
Well, see, I don't have that. So because we've been shooting these Hoyts for enough, mm-hmm. and we've got new ones for, I don't know what it's been, 3-4 years now at least. Mm-hmm. And it's like, just put a new one in my hand. It's just like better. It's just better. Yeah. It's just exactly the same, but better. Yeah. In some capacity. And so, mm-hmm. but I guess what I'm saying is like this year here, if I'm just being honest, it's the first time in the past at least 2 years or 3 years maybe that I've been like, oh, like that's a significant improvement. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was the draw cycle on this one, mm-hmm. which is funny, dude, because it's not like an earth shattering change. Mm-hmm. Like the only thing new on this bow is that XTS system. Mm-hmm. But he mentioned, some other, slight tweaks and stuff that they're mm-hmm. doing along more proprietary stuff, I guess, but it is a smoother draw cycle. And it is definitely deader in the hand and quieter when you shoot it. Mm-hmm. And it still has that feels like, lesser poundage. So like I'm shooting 80 pounds. Mm-hmm. To me, it feels like I'm pulling 70 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. And that's probably a lot of the draw cycle side of it. Just having that smoother draw cycle is going to make you feel like you're pulling less, essentially.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's cool to see that. And even just those minor adjustments with the feet and stuff to go from an extra hard to a hard wall. Yeah. I mean, that all, it's just good knowledge to have. And yeah, man, we're stoked. We're leaving for Illinois tomorrow morning. Head out and put them to use,
got a booner to chase too.
We do have a booner to chase. Technically, I guess we can't show the bows if we kill them in the next couple weeks.
That's true.
No bows and pictures.
Have to blur it out. Well, if you're hearing this, it's out. So
yeah. But you will see a blurred out bow.
Blurred bow in the pic.
So anyways, we appreciate everyone listening to this episode of HUNTR Podcast with Brian Gold from Hoyt Archery. And we will catch you on the next one.
Later.
Take me